contradictions in it, right? We talk about this all the time on the show. And I thought it'd be fun to-
Wait.
No?
It has contradictions?
Yeah, you don't know about this?
Yeah.
I don't think it has any true contradictions.
Oh, yeah, sure. There's
P and
all-
not P kind of contradictions.
Yeah. Forrest, you got some?
Yeah, I mean, like here in Numbers, God commands that a man be put to death for gathering sticks on the Sabbath. But then you turn the page over to Joshua here, and God tells them to carry the ark around the city for 7 consecutive days, and then 7 times on the 7th day. One of those would have had to have been the Sabbath. That's working on the Sabbath.
I'm talking about some real contradictions, okay? You remember in the book of James when they say that, our faith is justified by works, but then also in Romans it says our faith is just justified by just
that works
That-
alone.
faith
again,
and
that's
stuff,
not
it's
like what an actual true contradiction is. Like what you would want is something like the proposition and conjunction of its negation, right? So like it's raining in this location and it's not raining in this location, right?
Yeah,
So-
Well, then that would say, like, okay, so God is perfect and unchanging and all-knowing, but then you have stuff like here in 1 Samuel 15 where he says, I regret making Saul king. How does an omnipotent being understand what regret is? How is he capable of doing that? And it's not the only time that he regrets anything in this either. Like that happens a lot.
Yeah, or like in the New Testament, right, in the book of John, it says Christians aren't even capable of sinning because they're, within Jesus, right? And then, well, pretty much Christians sin. Like,
Yeah.
all the
That's the
time,
whole point of
so-
repenting is because of the sins.
Yeah, it's kind of a thing.
Maybe you're a theist and maybe you can defend it's not true contradictions or seemingly contradictions. Well, the show starts now, so call in.
Greetings and salutations, good listeners. Welcome to the Atheist Experience, a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to spreading positive atheism and the separation of church and state. My name is Forrest Valkai, and I, much to your chagrin, am your host today. I am joined today by the lovely and handsome JMike and the beautiful and talented ObjectivelyDan.
Wow.
Welcome, both of you, to what is surely going to be one of the weirdest shows you've ever participated in.
Probably.
Yeah, well,
And-
not as weird as our freaky kind of little shift there that
Right.
we had earlier.
Yeah.
Where-
Very
or I'm you and you are me. But
That was an amazing idea that we had over breakfast tacos this morning and just couldn't let go of. Tuned in to Talk Heathen 2 hours ago was to see what we're talking about there. Also, I want to say thank you and welcome and all the good, lovely things to our kind and charming audience who is live in the studio today.
Yeah.
Look at them out there in the real world. There they are. Look at how handsome they are.
Yeah.
Did you know that tuning in to AXP is scientifically proven to make you 14% more handsome?
Wow.
That is true. That's real
that's how I got
science.
the way I look.
That's,
Yeah,
it's facts.
exactly,
It's
dude.
real facts.
Crazy.
Before we get started in the show, we have a couple little updates and things I want to tell you. The first one is that we have the question of the week thing here, the share your experience segment of the show. Last week, we asked you complete this sentence. If there is an intelligent designer, explain blank. And here are 3 favorites. Number 3 says, if intelligent design is true, why foreskins? When you just have to cut them off anyway. This person clearly doesn't understand
Devotion.
Faith,
Right.
devotion. Yes, exactly. You got to be ready to murder a child, and you got to be ready to cut your dick. Otherwise, you don't love God.
Nope.
Number 2 says, if there's an intelligent designer, explain why predators were given good eyesight while their prey got camouflage, so neither benefits and could have been left as is. From the biology perspective, I would just talk about like the whole Red Queen hypothesis and evolutionary arm races and stuff. But that's really just to say that God knows better. And the only way that God can truly demonstrate their glory is to make things in nature contradict and cancel each other out, almost as if they evolved that way.
Yeah. But that's just a theory.
Just a theory.
That's just
a theory. And then finally, number 1, if there is an intelligent designer, explain why hot dogs come in pack of 10 and buns come in packs of 8.
A classic.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's, what, though? God cannot account for capitalism.
No.
He just can't.
No.
With the problem this week, if you want to participate in this, what just happened, you can actually leave a comment down below and answer this question. What's a warning label that God forgot to make? Do you guys have an idea of what's a warning label that God forgot to?
I think narwhals don't contain magical powers, so we shouldn't hunt them. Don't hunt the narwhals.
You're just trying to keep the narwhals for yourself.
Yes,
is what it is.
But you know, I'm sure how many narwhals have died, you know, because the horns. They probably thought they could do something. It was like, you know, with like rhinos and stuff. It's supposed to be like better sexual fertility and stuff. I imagine at least one person has hunted a narwhal because they
want that big ass
become like a
tooth.
wizard or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would anyway.
You guys see one crazy snaggletooth that becomes an evolutionary benefit, and then you become a goddamn sea unicorn.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
What about you? Do you got one?
Interpretations or interpretive principles may vary, is what I think should be slapped on the Bible.
Yeah, I was gonna say, my warning label would be on the Bible, and just warning not to be taken literally. Also, slavery's bad.
Yeah, I thought mine was a little more whimsical, but you guys.
No, yours was lovely. I appreciate you keeping the atmosphere light.
That's why we keep it. Dan makes it fun.
Yeah.
Us grim atheists have to continue just bringing the mood back down. We've already got some callers on the line here,
we do.
and I'm really excited about that because like we've got a bunch of them. My goodness.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we're going to jump into that. But if you out there are a theist and you're watching this, especially with what we were talking about at the beginning, if you think that the Bible doesn't contain any contradictions or that God is somehow capable of being all-knowing and all-powerful and all-good all at the same time, then here's your chance to call in. The number's right there on the bottom of the screen. I think I just dropped out.
Just for a second.
Yeah. Here's your chance to call in. The number's right there on the bottom of the screen, 512-991. I can't read the last, 9242?
9242.
Those are the ones. Got that.
I have to
up in here.
I have to look at the sheet every single time, even though I say like every single.
It is on my screen here as well. I just realized.
I don't know why, but.
Yeah, no, this is my actual job. So we've got a few callers on the line, and we're gonna go with David. Pronouns he, him. Calling in from Cavernous Anus. What? Is a questioning theist, raised Catholic, and wants to know if we remove God concepts, how could we examine existence? How could we still come to moral understandings? I think this is a fantastic way to start the show. David, you are on AXP with all three of these people up here. How are you today, sir?
I'm good. A little tired today, but we're good. How are you guys?
Good.
Never had a bad day.
Excellent. We had a great time yesterday.
You're telling me about how bad of a day you had. No, I'm just kidding.
What's going on, David?
Yeah. So, hey, thanks for obviously for taking my call. I don't really have too many of these. I'm not able to have a lot of these kind of conversations in my life with my real life people that are in my life. They don't really share maybe perhaps other opposite opinions of what I was raised in, and so it's hard. I'm currently in like a kind of a crisis of faith, maybe existential sort of dread here.
That's what we're here for.
As I'm, I guess, starting my my questioning theist phase. I guess maybe moving into non-theism. We'll see where this goes. But yeah, so I had this thought experiment I was doing in my head, and it does involve like removing God. So if you could create an experiment, I'm no scientist, I'm not a historian, any of this stuff, but if you could remove the teachings of any sort of religion or any sort of deity or any sort of God from a group of people, and they were in this sort of, box on an island, and they were taught about the universe and all the science and even updating the science as it goes, would these kids or these people eventually lead to a God to explain things that the science is leaving out, or we don't know yet.
What do you mean by explain the things that science is leaving out?
Just the unexplained. I guess we don't really. Again, I follow some of your videos, Forrest. You'll say that, all theories are wrong, but some of them are useful, or all models are wrong, whatever it is. And so it's like, let's just say beginning of the universe. It's really fuzzy to me. I know that there's a great expansion, perhaps a singularity of some sort, because that's what the science seems to prove. But, you have all these other people who have degrees, like priests and stuff that went to college and became ordained. And
right, but those aren't exactly the same kind of degrees.
Yeah.
Well, but, to a kid who's, 4 going to church, you're just like man with microphone preaching at me must be
right. So in this theoretical society where we don't have these religious implications, maybe one of the things that we would focus on is making sure that kids don't accept arguments from authority, and they understand that just because somebody says something really confidently or has a fancy title or has a big microphone, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're right. And we would teach critical thinking at a younger age, and we would teach skepticism at a younger age, and you wouldn't have to wait until you go to college to learn how to criticize somebody with authority and how to think through what they're saying. And they would learn that not all degrees are created equal. I mean, flip, dude, I've got a handful in biology. I wouldn't confidently talk about stuff in chemistry that I don't know super well, or geology even though they're still science. So I certainly wouldn't expect somebody with a bunch of degrees in theology to then come in and try to fill in the blanks in physics.
Yeah.
Those are all lessons that we could teach. And as far as like the unanswered questions so far, I would imagine that in this society that you're talking about, they would address them the same way that we do. They would continue probing the universe. They would accept saying, I don't know, even if they're not satisfied with that answer. They would keep looking for new stuff. And in concepts of morality, because that was what I saw here in the call screen, you said, could we still come to moral understandings? Yeah, they would be able to do that the exact same way that you do. You certainly don't look to the Bible for your morality. That's why you're not in jail. But if you, as a society, we would come to understandings about how to treat people well and how to treat each other like we would want ourselves to be treated, or better yet, how they would want themselves to be treated. We would learn to do things that benefit society and humans flourishing, and we would learn to not do things that kind of hinder that process. I don't think that it would be any far stretch to say if you took religion out of this metaphorical or this theoretical society you're talking about, that they would be able to progress just as far, if not significantly farther, than we are today.
Yeah, and I thought, well, actually, I want you to respond. I want to cut you off.
Go ahead.
Oh, me to respond.
Yeah, I don't
go
want
ahead,
to just
David.
tag like 100 things at you.
Right.
No, that's all. Hey, I'm happy just to listen to you guys. But yeah, I don't, it's, the morality without religion. I mean, like, I know, JMike, I think a few videos ago, I did a deep dive very quickly on many a road trip with your lovely podcast. You've said like morality about, tossing a kid off a roof in both worlds where there's no, one's got a God, one doesn't. They're both obviously it's bad, but like, I again, just indoctrinated from a small age that like you're just, these are the commandments and these are the things, and this is morality and God's all this good. And again, like Catholicism versus like Christianity, I mean, we didn't use all of these, I don't know a single passage in the Bible like for chapter to number or anything, or just told that what. So,
Yeah, and this
slavery, I didn't even know was in the Bible until recently.
Well, yeah, this is like tough for me too, because so like my family is like, my mom's Catholic, but like I grew up like differently. Like so it's hard for me because I had a really awesome upbringing. So like I wasn't like, here's how to reason, like believe this, that, and that. It was very free form. It was obviously they gave me the tools, but they didn't add all this kind of extra stuff that I see a lot of religious people go through, where now they're like 30 or 20 trying to like figure out things in the world, like, protecting themselves from NFT scams. Or I bring this up all the time because, it's all related, right? It's all gonna come back to, is this person a con man? Is this a true proposition? Is somebody trying to sell it as a true proposition for some advantage? And I had such freedom there. So when I hear people talk, this is like a really tough thing for me to get under. And that's also something I work out where I'm like, I don't want to yell at somebody knowing this. But that all said, like, I feel like if we're going to play this like thought experiment kind of game with it, like I'm curious what you think about this. And I know that this is probably crude, but like, maybe I just give it a shot and see what you think. Like, the way I think about this is like, imagine a world where it's just like me and Dan in this world. Yeah. And like Dan comes up to me and just like pushes me. Right. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, and so I push him back. And we kind of sit there for a second and we push each other around a little bit. And Dan's like, all right, like, my bad. I don't like the way this feels to me. And I'm like, I report back to him, I really would prefer that you ought not do that either. And we come to some like, social contract or some agreement. And then we add like Forrest to the room and we play the push game again.
Yeah.
And then like people from the audience are right. We do this all the time, or up until we get to 7-8 billion people. And for this hypothetical, like, assume we all just agree, which is not the case. We don't agree on like all these kind of moral beliefs. Nowhere in there when we have this agreement is it pointing to like, hey, there's something independent of us that makes this true. Right? There's some like shared nature that we have where, of course, when I push Forrest or I push Dan, it's very similar, like, physiological response that I do. And we can connect with each other on this and come to some type of agreement. I struggle to find that in these cases where we're considering this, that we don't do that now. Nobody points to some moral fact in a disagreement or in politics or anything where they're like, that's the stance-independent moral fact, and we ought to do that thing. It's a bunch of people giving their opinions and stances, and a lot of times it's congruent, and a lot of times it's a little bit, you have to get a little bit more deep into it. But I think when you focus on the well-being of others, or just like, someone's overall mental health, you have all this in consideration, and you both accept propositions in that realm, it's not hard for you to start developing your normative ethical theory. I mean, I don't know if that helps at all. It's probably long-winded, but I'm curious what you think about that, like, really crude kind of thought experiment.
Yeah, actually, I really like how kind of simple and dumbed down that was. Not to say that was a dumb.
Music to my
I love how stupid that was.
Music to my ears.
JMike, you're really good at making things sound really dumb.
That's wonderful.
Hey, David, cool. Don't listen to these fucking guys. All right, I like to hear that because my biggest problem is like not being able to transition out of.
He's too smart, is he?
No, oh my God,
he's just too smart.
Yeah, he is.
Imposter syndrome, lightning rod of imposter syndrome. But yeah.
No, I love it. It's so easy to understand. I was happy to think. Yeah, I totally get that. It's just a matter of me, I think, building the bridge away from kind of my indoctrination and giving myself a bit of a grace. I told one thing at 4 years old, 5 years old, whatever it was, when I started going and I got really into the church and I was like, did everything but say the mass. And, that felt a whole different way. I don't know. There's just a lot of like stuff I think I got to get. It's on me, just to kind of get over and just sort of, I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you this, David.
Critically, I think you guys are saying.
I'll tell you this. One of the hardest things for me to deconstruct from my Christianity was my understanding of moral philosophy, because I had an understanding that all of my understanding of what's right and wrong come from God on some level, right? Because we're made in His divine image and blah, 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 right? But when I took an example from, say, like anthropology, and I realized, okay, well, Homo sapiens have been around, modern Homo sapiens has been around for at least 200,000, some say 300,000 years. Like most of that
6,
time period.
What are you talking about?
6,000, right? No, when you have that long of a time period, and most of that is obviously not recorded history, but these are groups of people who had to get together and figure stuff out. Whether or not they invoked religion in doing that or not, I can't speak to, but surely some of them just had to say, hey, I just have some interests, you have some interests, and then that's how just society forms, right? Like it's a lot. I mean, I'm giving JMike crap here because I love him, but like it's true. Like if you really just think about it as just like two people in a room trying to figure stuff out, you really don't have to get to God at all to understand, hey, this is what's going to work out best for us. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, love all of that. It's a simple. I think that's my biggest hang up is just like, okay, you have two people in a room, that's great, but you're just kind of figuring out how to treat each other, which is awesome. And I definitely want to just treat my neighbors as much as, as good as I want to be treated. I try to lead by that, even when people are, shitty to me or having a bad, I give them the benefit of that. Hey, just having a bad day. Maybe they snap to me. Maybe I don't have to take it personally kind of thing. But like when you get into like the science end of things, when the I don't know, like that's a huge thing for me. Like the not accepting. Accepting I don't know is like an answer and just like being okay with it. I don't know. It's just, we were just taught like God gave us science to explain shit, and whatever we can't explain, that's God. And we don't question because God doesn't like questions.
And isn't it funny how the things we can't explain keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller? So the God keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and then pretty soon it explodes, and then it's everything again. It's wild. Whenever I have people call in and they talk about, like, pick your favorite, abiogenesis, evolution, whatever it is. It's like, well, you can't explain this little chunk. It's like, yeah, okay. But we couldn't explain about 30 other chunks 10 years ago. And we filled all of those in. And you used to say the exact same thing about all of those. So what are you going to say now when we fill in this one? You're just going to have to find another pocket of ignorance to cram your God into. And what inevitably happens is that when something isn't explained scientifically, that means it's unexplainable, therefore it's God.
Right.
And when something is explained scientifically, it's incredible and complex, therefore it's God. And like, I really, really wish that argument could just be honest, which is just, I like the idea that a guy did the thing, and that's the whole thing. That's the whole argument is a guy, there's some guy, and he did it, and that's the argument. And instead, we have to play this game where we pretend like you're being honest. We pretend like you're looking for a reason. We pretend like you've really thought about the science. We pretend like you're up to date on the information when really, there's a guy and you like the guy and you want to say that the guy did the things because he's a space wizard and he can do cool shit like that. And like, that's just not really an argument worth having. But it sounds to me, David, like you're well on your way to already tearing all of this apart. It says that you're in your questioning phase. It sounds like you're properly into your deconstruction if these are things that you're really thinking about seriously. And it sounds like you are inches from casting off the chains of this religion, and I really wish you the best.
Yeah.
I'm actually curious, because I'm curious what Forrest's view on this, because you seem to be like really focused on the science, like moral thing, and I don't know like what science, I called you science, what you pretty much are science.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Science. Pleasure to meet you.
What Forrest's take on this when we talk about like values or morals in science, like curious on that take, because a lot of that project seems to be undertaken by like moral philosophers, or like they're coming up with like normative ethical theories, which I don't think of like, there's clearly not one we should all adopt because some philosophers had said so. There's not really a consensus like there is in science, which is what
I got to
helps
tell you
drive
guys
it,
something. JMike's been going on a crazy tangent with the normative ethics this weekend. He's like, we were on the back cruise yesterday. He was ranting and raving. I was like, sir, this is a Wendy's. Like, he was just all over the place with it. Anyway, go ahead.
But like, there's views like Cornell realism. I don't pretend to know about a lot of these, but there's views you can find in like the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, like Cornell realism, moral naturalism, stuff like that. And
Everybody
that might
knows
be
Cornell realism.
Yeah, Jackson realism. Yeah,
I was reading it in the bath yesterday.
Yeah,
it was a fantastic read.
Well, these positions, like they, try to like they, give some type of moral framework or without God, but I don't know that kind of stuff would interest you if you're really looking into like the science, because that's going to be a lot of people speculating in the armchair. But I'm curious, like what you think, like where the values kind of moral frame, where he can look on something that's probably more tangible.
I mean, like Flip, dude, if you're interested in like the science overlap in morality, Sam Harris famously wrote his book, The Moral Landscape, which is basically the whole thesis statement is that we can more or less quantify human health and well-being. We have science of human health, and we have psychology, and we have all these things. We understand what makes humans prosperous. And so moral is trying to get closer to that, and amoral is getting away from that, and that there's no one thing that is the most moral. It's a landscape. There's peaks and valleys. It's a multidimensional thing. And some things can be equally moral as other things. You don't have to pick one. It's not to say that we're going to consult some supercomputer to try to figure out which university to go to or what you should have for lunch or how many children you should have. It's just that you can take a more rational approach to the concept of morality and leave, supposedly so-called objective sources like God, which doesn't make any sense because if God is the source of morality, then he's a subject, so it's also subjective. It's fine.
Wait, it's dependent on his stance?
Exactly. It would necessarily still be subjective. Whatever. The point is we can leave all these things out because at the end of the day, even though there is some complexity, eating apples is a good thing for your health, but eating too many can be bad. Eating rat poison is bad for your health, even though we make a lot of medication out of things that are toxins and whatnot like that, and you could theoretically build up an immunity, blah, blah, blah. There's a million ifs and buts, unlesses, untils, and all these other caveats and couches around every single statement, but we can still use our rationality to come up with morality as well. And so, like, those are some things I would look into that kind of concept. I remember reading Sam's book when I was in like my undergrad at some point, and like I haven't read it in can't even tell you how long, but I remember enjoying it, so check it out. And then look up other things like that, and look up criticisms of that as well. Look up people who think that he's an idiot and that the book is terrible, and then see why they say some of those things. And if they say, 'cause God, then maybe ignore them as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, David, I really appreciate you calling in. I really appreciate your time. I'll let you have the last word, and then we're going to move on to the next caller, okay?
Yeah. Oh, no, thank you all three for taking your time and having a discussion with me. It's my first ever really kind of deep dive into talking about it with other humans besides my own brain. So this is incredibly helpful. And maybe I'll call back in to some updates.
I'll add one thing.
You guys will have me.
There's like online communities. Like I go on different platforms, and it's like a revolving door of theists and atheists. And you can, maybe you don't think you'll make progress, but it really helps kind of develop your skills and talking with other people and feeling more prepared and not foggy and stuff like that. I highly suggest, if that's interesting to you, or if that doesn't make your anxiety kind of crazy, to look at that. Because for some people, it's like, they just can't even think about that thought of going and doing that stuff. So
yeah. Anyway, David, I think you're well on your way, man. If these are the kind of questions you're calling in with now at the beginning of your journey, you're going to be great.
Yep.
Have an awesome rest of your day, David.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
You too.
have a good one.
Good stuff.
A nice dude.
Yep.
Great way to start the show.
Great way to start the show. Let's fuck it all up by talking to angry people.
Yeah, exactly. Before we get into the next call, which may be a little bit spicier, who knows? So far, everybody on the call screen looks really friendly and nice, which is annoying because we made the chat poll, can God ever be wrong? And 11% of literally everyone on Earth, because that's how many people answered the poll, I'm sure, 11% of humanity said, no, God can never be wrong, and I will call the show about it. That's like 800 million people that should be on the line waiting. And yet we've got all these amazing calls of people who seem to have like interesting questions. So we'll just theists, creationists, people who are upset that we have our pronouns in our bio. This is your chance, y'all.
That's right.
How dare you?
Yes. Before we go any further, though, we are excited to announce that we are doing the Brick fundraiser again, because it was actually surprisingly popular. After just an overwhelming amount of success in the first round, we're opening up another opportunity for you to leave your mark on us here at the ACA by purchasing an engraved brick. You create contribute to the creation of this beautiful patio outside. It showcases your heartfelt message and your generous donation. Every brick is inscribed with your personalized text, making a lasting tribute of your support. So please join us in building a space that celebrates our community and the impact of your contributions. By buying your brick, you can learn more about that at the link in the description below. Here are some examples of the bricks. They are this size. They're not really. They're brick size. These are the bricks up here. But this is a little tiny one that's dedicated to me, which is super sweet. Someone paid real. They worked. They went and did.
World, not Monopoly money.
They
real
did their jobs.
USD.
They sacrificed time in their lives to earn money because we live in a capitalist hellscape. And then they bought this thing in order to put my name on it. And I can't say thank you enough for that. That is
Well, they didn't tell you they wanted me to hit you with it.
No, exactly. But that's what's going to happen next too. But yeah, you can buy brick-size bricks and larger brick-size bricks all at the thing down there. Also, if you like what we do, you can support us in other ways as well. We got a Patreon. You can learn more about our Patreon at tiny.cc/Patreon You can also become a channel member for as little as 99 cents a month. If you're in the chat right now, go ahead and show off some of the cool emojis and whatnot that you get to post whenever you join our channel membership. And you can get your AXP swag at tiny.cc/merch-ACA. You can buy pins and backpacks and onesies and youth tees. And there's a beanie up in there and some phone cases and something to wrap around your child. There's all sorts of things that you can purchase at that link right there. And most importantly, more than all of these things, we want to say thank you to the crew who make this show possible. Can we get the crew cam up there as well? Look at them. Woo. The room up there is directly next to the room that we're in right now. And it's just full of people who are really cool and really kind and really caring. And then the other people that were on the screen too. They all make this show possible, and we thank them very much. With that,
a lot of calls.
We have a lot of calls. We have like just a dozen people waiting. And I actually kind of want to do this one next.
Which one?
I'm looking at line number 8.
Line number 8?
Yeah. Just because it sounds real interesting. We've got Sean, no pronouns given, calling in from Tiny Xylophones, wants to give our opinion on investigation into the Eucharist miracle and what that might mean if it's true. Okay, cool. Thank you. Sean, you are on AXP. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are y'all?
Really, really good.
Fantastic.
Really good. I don't know what you're talking about with this miracle. I've never heard of it, but I want to talk more about what it means if it's true. That's very interesting to me.
Yes.
So start out, let's talk about what this thing is. What is the miracle to which you are referring?
So the Eucharistic miracle of Lanciano happened approximately 1,200 years ago. And the investigation that was conducted concerning that miracle was conducted in the 1970s. And what they found is that the Eucharist, which is the bread of the Catholic Church that we believe is the body of Christ.
But only after you eat it.
It turned into actual flesh and blood. That is the miracle that took place.
Okay.
And the blood coagulated, and the flesh and the blood has actually been preserved for 1,200 years. And they conducted this investigation in 1970 and found that the specimen is still alive. And then they also identified that same blood that was found in that miracle is
more and more
the same as the blood that was taken from the Shroud of Turin.
Oh,
which happened
the 13th century.
over
You're
2,000
talking about the 13th century sheet? Is that what you're talking about?
Who is they, sir? When you say they investigated, who are you talking about?
I would have to pull up the article to...
Come on, man. This is a miracle. This is like the most fucking...
the most
hold on. This is the most
important thing you
important
should know.
fucking miracle, and you don't even know?
Okay, so
Dan's
this is
on
supposed to happen every time the Eucharist occurs. Why are we talking about something that happened in the 8th
one
century?
time.
Yeah, well, I'm looking here. There's no sources older for this event happening than 1574, even though this allegedly happened in the 8th century. But I'm going to assume that everything you're talking about to me is true. And then for some reason, we got, they did these tests and they found out, hey, this is really some flesh and stuff. Okay, all we did was an examination of some old flesh. That doesn't really tell me that, hey, this was actually bread before that, right? In order for us to really consider this to be legitimate, we have to have recordings of the thing that it was before and then the thing that it was after. Because all we have is what's after for us to look at least with our modern tools, right?
You don't like post hoc kind of reasoning?
A little bit, yeah. But again, if the Eucharist is allegedly, according to the Catholic Church, right, supposed to be the literal body of Christ, I don't know why this wouldn't happen, I don't know, all the time instead of just this one time.
Why can't they have somebody go to Mass and then have their stomach pumped immediately afterwards and find if that's turned into meat in them?
Yeah.
I also, so I have a million questions, and I'm sitting over here jotting things down, just kind of thinking. I have several questions, and they begin with this. Assuming that the concept, going back to the concept of the Eucharist as a thing, if that is what it is, why is ritualistic cannibalism necessary for your faith, sir? Why is it that eating the flesh of another human is the thing that your God wants? Why is this a miracle? Just eating meat that came from a guy. Why is that what you need?
Well, so it's not presented as cannibalism in the way that we would understand
Can we break down
in
cannibalism?
our modern times.
Hold on, I want to give our caller a fair chance because he wanted to talk specifically about this miracle.
Right, but the miracle is, the concept is that when you eat this bread, it's the body of Christ.
Well,
and most people would hear that and say, okay, this is metaphorical.
Yeah.
What he's arguing is that, no, it is quite literal. This actually turns to flesh and blood in your body. And here's an example of it happening outside of a body.
It is kind of weird.
Which is to say that the point of this practice is to consume actual flesh and blood. And based on your description of it, saying that it's living and it's been living for hundreds of years or whatever like this, it's magical flesh and blood, supposedly actually from Jesus. So why is ritualistic cannibalism an exciting thing? Why is that part of your religious practice? We're talking about the implications of this miracle. What does it mean if it's true, right? That was what you put on your call screen. If it's true, then that means that this is actually something you are literally eating human flesh every week and drinking human blood.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Mm-hmm. Well, because the difference is that the combined beliefs of knowing that Christ is fully man and fully God means that we are consuming that which is divine. So it's no longer just this idea of cannibalism. It's not, I'm just eating the flesh of another man. It is that I am consuming God himself.
So special cannibalism.
In doing so, I become more like God.
It's still cannibalism,
And
though.
what's supposed
That's
to
not-
take place.
So it's a you are what you eat type of thing, only with Jesus.
Yeah, it's. I gotta say this. It doesn't mean it's not cannibalism just because it's another god too. Because Jesus is supposed to be a dude.
And
too,
setting
right?
aside the fact that you said he's fully man and
That's
fully
what I-
God.
that's
what I
so
wanted
he's
to talk about.
200% of a thing.
Yeah.
At least so you can say he is 100% a man, which means yes,
Yeah.
you are just eating man meat.
Yeah, just because I think JMike's really special doesn't mean that when I'm eating him, it's not cannibalism.
It is
yeah.
deeply concerning.
I will-
It is
yeah,
deeply concerning, Sean.
I kind of want to propose maybe.
Sure, but
Go ahead, Sean. I'm sorry.
eating your friend for the sake of what? Just to fill your stomach? That's a very different concept than.
What if I wanted to be more like JMike?
I mean,
And so I ate him to become more like him. I could finally grow a beard, Sean.
Sense.
Well,
why,
you know what else?
why would someone want to do that for?
why does somebody want to eat God? I don't know.
That's the
Oh,
question.
let me-
I have so many more
Yeah,
questions. I'm just hung up on this one
yeah,
first.
let me dial back really quick because you're like, this doesn't make sense, but you made a statement that I cannot get over. It's like he's fully God and fully man. So I think the
yeah.
properties it's like constitutive of like man, right, would be exhausted there, and there wouldn't be like anything in that set of like divinity or whatever. So how help me understand that what you're not saying is like he's fully like just a direct contradiction, right?
Yeah.
Like if it subsumes these properties, like how is it also 100% the other thing when that set doesn't contain, like man doesn't contain divine properties, right? How does that work?
So, do you know about transubstantiation?
Yes.
That was weird that you said that.
So if you apply transubstantiation, which we apply to the Eucharist, if you apply that to Christ, then the accidents which we observe remain the same, and therefore you would observe man, but the substance
hold on, but wait, hold on.
of the being.
That's not what I'm not getting.
is
Like I'm not getting at that. Like
something
look, hold on.
different.
No, but that's not what I'm getting at. Like God, sans creation, right? Before there's even like men, doesn't have this property of being like a man, right? But like once there's creation and there's Jesus and stuff, we have something that has all of those divine properties. It's equally God, but God doesn't have those properties sans creation. I'm not understanding. He just becomes fully God? Was he Jesus sans creation? Does the identity hold sans creation?
So Christ has existed for eternity.
Great.
Because
Okay.
Christ is God. He's the second person in the Trinity, and therefore he was there at the creation of everything.
Okay, he's the second
and
person.
has
Hold on.
always been.
Okay, he's the second person of the Trinity. Okay, and we have so do you agree that the Father, for example, doesn't affirm the proposition, I am the Son?
I don't know what you mean by that.
Does the Father affirm the proposition, I am the Son?
If I'm understanding what you're saying, God.
I'm not talking about God. I'm asking about the
that
Father.
Jesus
I'm asking about the
Christ
Father.
is
I'm
the
asking you
Son.
about the Father. Does the Father? I said my
Right.
words the way that I said them. Does
That's
the
what I'm
Father
trying to
affirm?
say.
Yeah. Does the Father affirm the? This is just yes or no. Does the Father affirm the proposition? I am the Son.
They are not the same.
Okay. This is
Right.
standard Trinitarian view.
The Father is not the Son.
Agree.
The Son is not the
Great.
Father.
So
and
that's fine. All
the
I was
Son
asking.
and the Father are not the Holy Spirit.
Stop, Sean.
Right, we get it.
Stop. I'm just asking for a yes or no. I wasn't asking for you to elucidate. You'll have time to do that. So, but the Son doesn't affirm the
I'm just
proposition.
trying to have a conversation.
I know,
with you.
but
don't
I get that. But I'm
understand
trying. I'm
what
trying to make a point. I'm not trying to
We
a
already
lot of
understand
columns.
the religion. We're,
Yeah.
we're trying to make sure we're on the same page.
Trying to make a point because I just don't understand this whole thing, and so I'm just trying to have you help me out here, right? So the Son doesn't affirm the proposition I am the Father. That's clear that you've said the Father doesn't affirm the proposition he's the Son. The Son doesn't affirm the proposition. So they have two different propositional attitudes, right? That aren't identical. One affirms a proposition. Maybe it affirms that I am begotten, or affirms that I, suffered greatly, that's not going to be the case for like the Father. But those will hold identical relations in virtue of God. Help me figure out how, when they have these cognitive like attitudes, right, these propositional attitudes towards different propositions, that is not directly a contradiction. Like, how do you maintain identity when they have completely different propositions that are affirmed? In fact, the Father is denying and affirming the negation of the proposition that the Son is, but yet they're identical to God. Help me figure this out, because it just sounds like straightforward nonsense 3-in-1 shampoo.
I don't understand how the Father is denying anything that the Son.
The proposition, I am the Son, the Father does not affirm that. That proposition is false, right?
I'm not saying that the Father is the Son, or that the Son is the Father.
I know. Look, it's pretty easy to track. They both affirm statements that aren't congruent. One is, I am the Son. One is, I am the Father. And we get for free out of that the Son does not affirm he is the Father, and the Father does not affirm that he is the Son. They have two different propositional attitudes. That's polytheism. You have two different things having two different attitudes towards different propositions. In fact, one of them denies a proposition that the other one accepts, but then you hold that they're identical to God. It doesn't make sense. So when you do this identity thing, you lose me rapidly.
Sure. So when Christ says that the Father is in me and I am in the Father, and therefore they are one in that way, that's where...
If they're one, they're going to have the same set of propositions that they hold. If they're one, they wouldn't be like, if me and Forrest were one, he wouldn't be like, I'm Forrest Valkai and I'm JMike, and we both did like not affirm those propositions. Mm-hmm. How would we say we're one if we have different attitudes?
I don't even know where I don't know where you're getting this that they're not.
Because the identity relation can't hold if there's different things in the set that don't agree with each other. How is it an identity relation if I can on my piece of paper write out propositions that one affirms, and there'll be several of them, right? Like dying on the cross or praying in the garden, things that the Father does not affirm, and I can get this giant list to show you that there's no identity relation once you funneled that back up to God, because you're supposed to be affirming that the Father is God, the Son is God, the Father is not the Son. But when we funnel that back up, it makes no sense. You can't hold that identity relation. I mean, like, the best people can try to do is hold to like some type of relative identity, right? I'm very skeptical of that notion, but I'm speaking long, but
no, it's fine.
I'm just saying your view is incoherent.
It also doesn't make any sense to me that, like, I have issues with the idea of eating human flesh, like, for a lot of reasons, but I also have an issue with if this God is going to do a miracle, why is this the one that it chooses?
Yeah.
Why is 1,200 years ago I made some bread into meat? Why is that the miracle and not like ending world hunger? If we're talking about food, maybe 10,000 kids don't have to starve to death every day, and that can be a miracle that we all get behind, not some spurious investigation of some several hundred-year-old meat from a guy that you want to consume. There's a lot there. Yeah. I don't understand any of it. And also, the concept of transubstantiation is the exact opposite of the miracle you talked about. It's not that, the cracker literally turns into meat. It's that the spirit of the cracker, the substance of the cracker turns into meat, and then the rest of it, the accidentals or whatever, remain the cracker. So this is not transubstantiation. This is just transformation, and that's strange. Overall, man, this doesn't make a lot of sense on its face. And even if we assume that what you're saying is true, which, again, I can't stress enough, I don't think it is. But even if we assume that this miracle actually occurred, it only raises further questions about what this God actually is, what its priorities are, why it runs its religion the way that it does. It makes the whole thing a whole heck of a lot grosser, in my opinion, Sean.
Yeah. Sean, we got to let you go because we got some other people that want to
We
talk
know
about
that.
This. Go ahead. I'll let you give your piece real quick.
Cannot be perfect. Right? Yeah. Earth cannot be perfect because it's not heaven. We're taught that from the very beginning within our faith, that man was cast out from paradise. And so that is why we need salvation.
Why?
That is why God gave himself in the flesh.
Why does that change literally anything about what I just said?
Yeah, I don't think
You just were thinking about the next thing to say and not listening to Forrest.
Yeah, Earth is not perfect, and we are sinful. Therefore, you must consume human flesh.
Yeah, that is really
what a religion. Sean, we're going to move on. We got other people.
Responding to what you said, because you asked me why would God choose that miracle instead of choosing to end world hunger, and so I was responding to something.
Yeah, that's a lame.
That's also pretty lame because Jesus literally multiplied food and decided to give some people like at a certain point in time. So he's not opposed to giving people free food.
Does he not repeat tricks? He's like a magician. He doesn't want to do the trick twice.
We do gotta let you go, Sean, because we got a full line here. But as we're letting you go, just let me tell you. Look, I guarantee you, okay, that every single Sunday for the rest of your life, if you do the proper scientific experimentation on every single piece of bread that goes in through the Catholic Church, I promise you, you will never find, again, bread turning into literal actual flesh. Go ahead. That's the bet I'm willing to make. If you can prove me wrong on that, that's great. You're only going to find it in stories from the 8th century, and you won't find it today in the 21st. So there you go.
It is amazing how the frequency of miracles tends to plummet with the frequency of cameras increasing.
Yeah.
We've got a bunch of other callers on the line. We got like a bunch. So we're going to jump right into another one really quickly. And I think that, what?
Oh, we're going to switch it.
We're going to switch it up right now.
That's not the right message. You put calls ready.
It says calls.
So, you're confused.
Never mind.
All right. Well,
I was told that we had to do that. No, now
I got to get switched out now. I got to do a quick
Get out of here, Dan.
I'm out now. Sorry. Bye, guys.
Leave already, guys.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, Jesus Christ indeed.
Inside you.
In the delicious flesh.
Get out.
Hey, Elliot's here.
Oh, hey, now
Look at that.
Hey,
There he is.
crazy.
All right.
Well, look at that.
Yeah.
Proof we're not the same person.
That
He
is
shaves
true.
randomly.
That is
so.
true. Like we wanted to finally put that to bed.
We put
That
the
was
Christy
actually-
one to bed.
Yeah.
We're not the trinity of like
No.
hippie long hair guy. you
No,
know,
one
so-
day though, maybe.
Yes,
you know,
we are.
Actually, if you send enough donations to the ACA, it could happen. We don't know, so try it. I mean,
Because I didn't want to be left out, so I actually brought something.
Wow. Okay.
Just because I felt like sitting here next to you two, I would just
Perfect.
be a little bit out of place.
see it.
So I figured I should just bring this along with me.
this is fucking gorgeous.
Now,
I got.
now we are the trinity of
Is
the
there-
hippie long hair.
Is there really an argument for God after this? Have we?
I mean, like, I think we put it to bed, y'all.
It's done.
I
Do we
think
need
this
to do
is
the
this.
show?
This is the Trinity you can believe in. This, get in here.
Dude, do you want to join my band?
Me too.
Join my
Name this
Yes.
band in the comments.
That's the thumbnail right there.
Oh man, we've got a few other calls on the line, and we're going to jump into them. Also, I want to say that before we jump into the next call, Katie, one of the producers of this show, made the terrible decision to tell me that we can go as long as we would like today. Now, she did not say this to the other hosts. She just told me that I can go as long as we want to today. So, Greg, lock the doors. The audience is staying. We got a lot of calls to get through today. It's going to be a great time.
Purgatory.
We've got Ivan, pronouns he, him, calling in from Crispy Angus. Nice toasted cows, y'all.
What?
Recently converted, but still believes in a higher power. Wants to know what led the hosts to atheism. I think this is a fantastic call for people listening in. Ivan, you are on the Atheist Experience. How are you doing today?
Hey guys, doing good. Yeah, thank you for taking my call. I just had that question. You know, I went through in about a year and a half deconversion. That was probably the toughest year and a half I've had with as far as faith goes. But my question was like, I don't believe anymore in all like the religious claims. Those have kind of been debunked in my mind as far as like, when you apply philosophical or moral tests or even historical tests. But the thing that hasn't quite gone yet, and I don't know if it needs to be gone or not, but I still kind of hang on to this idea that I still believe there's a God or there's a creator, but I just feel as though the religions are all kind of man's attempt at explaining what we don't really have good enough evidence to explain. But I wanted to see, like, what brought you guys to the point where, like, you're not necessarily in this same middle ground that I'm at, but you kind of cross that threshold and say, like, hey, there's probably not any God at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think a good thing for you, like at this point, is to, we can go through the same whole thing of like, well, you need evidence, and then like, where's your evidence for God and everything like that.
Shots.
It is punishing. But like we can go through the same, rigmarole. But also, I think it's important for you to ask yourself, if you're still holding on to this God belief, if there is a God, what kind of God is it? Is it a good guy or is it a bad guy? We just mentioned in the last call, about hunger. 25,000 people, including 10,000 children, starve to death every single day. That's the world this God is running. Is that a God that's worthy of your worship, even if it is real? Now, of course, saying that God isn't good isn't saying that God isn't real, but it will maybe help break through that barrier a little bit to where you can start asking some seriously critical questions about the validity of this claim, and that might help you further along down the way. You know what I mean?
That's literally what I was thinking. I was just about to say, like, okay, so what does your God do? Like, what is your God all about, man? Because if ultimately at the end of the day, like you take some time and you sit with it and you realize, like, all I'm basically ascribing to this entity is existence. Like, all I'm saying is that my God does exist. It's out there, but it doesn't care who you have sex with. It's not really concerned about, like, if you murder or anything. Like, it doesn't care about that stuff. Then it's kind of like,
inert.
well, yeah, like your God's, it's nothing, man. You can just drop that. That's easy, right? But it does take that time for you to actually go, what is this thing still, But yeah, where do you sit with that, Ivan?
Yeah, I kind of, so like, yeah, the definitely, the suffering in the world has played a role in it. And I guess the way I've been able to explain that to myself, who knows if I'm right or not, but the way I've been able to explain it is like the only, I guess, yeah, one conclusion would be, yeah, there's no God. But the other conclusion is kind of like this idea of, life almost being like an experiment of separation. And I say this in kind of a way of like almost as if life, like the purpose of our life is to help us grow of this life is to help us grow our consciousness. And one of the, the next steps. Yeah,
why would that experiment be happening?
I don't know.
Experiments are really cool until you're the one being experimented
Yeah, for sure, especially against your will, right?
It doesn't feel great.
Yeah. Like, is God just like not positive that like JMike and Forrest and I, our consciousness is only going to grow this much,
Yeah.
But like I see where you're coming from for sure, because there is, I think, for a lot of us, especially in a religious headspace, growing up like that, like you do kind of have this yearning for something out there, some answer. I mean, for years, I used to think that like birds showing up on my fucking driveway in the morning was like a sign from the universe.
Yeah.
I didn't believe like Jesus or anything was talking to me, but every single time a leaf would fall or a car horn would honk, I'd be like, that must mean something about what I'm supposed to do tomorrow, Like, and it's this innate thing that we do as people. Like, we look out into the world and we see the bush shake and we're just like, well, something's probably shaking it, But like that something could be the wind. It doesn't have to be an agent that's actually, paying attention.
It's interesting you say the bird thing, because I had like the same thing with my grandpa loved cardinals and stuff. So, me developing like, what I believe and whatnot, I'd have that. But I never lost anything now with the view I have, because it just reminds me of my grandfather.
Yeah, you just have a nice memory.
There's nothing that's like gone or lost there, But I mean, I'm also someone who doesn't. I think Dan or someone said this on Truth Wanted, but I don't want to watch a movie that lasts forever.
Yeah,
so like, I'm already in that kind of mode where, I think finite time is what makes things valuable in the first place. But but yeah, I don't feel like I lost anything with that. So
yeah, definitely. What do you think about all that?
Yeah. Well, I got a question for you guys. Like, because I guess one other factor that kind of influenced even my deconversion, it was actually listening to people talk about their near-death experiences. Now, I'd say that if you listen to some of them, take it with a grain of salt, I guess. But like, it seemed that a lot of people did experience, I guess you could say the loving God, whether they were theistic or non-theistic, but this God didn't really fit into any, religious category that we have in this world, and I guess I'm having, I know, kind of peering into like the spiritual side. It's almost impossible from our point of view, but I don't know. I feel like if that many people are having kind of these similar experiences when they, flatline and they're brought back and they tell us that story.
Do you want to know what?
There's some substance there.
Do you want to? So I'm kind of with you, okay, but do you want to know for me the thing that clearly jumps out as the through line through all of these experiences? Because I get you, Ivan. You're like, but man, SR, I've heard so many of these wild ones, man. There's all kinds of. My buddy had this 2 weeks ago. All of that, right? How are all these people wrong? Well, let me tell you what I think is the obvious, clear through line through all of these that connects them. Is people, man. Is humans. As people, we're all kind of really similar at the end of the day, and that's really great. And one of those things that's really, really similar is this squishy substance in our head. And when that thing starts to fail, it doesn't matter where in the world or when in history that's happening, it fails similarly. It's going to ultimately have similar consequences for people, whether you're flatlining in China or whether you're flatlining, here in Austin, Texas. Nobody do that, by the way, but you still aren't allowed out.
Don't let him tell you what to do.
Yeah,
you live your life.
You still can't leave. No, you still can't leave. But yeah, so like, I get you, Ivan. You're like, how are all these people having these experiences? But it's because at the end of the day, JMike and I are pretty similar enough that if he stubs his toe, I kind of get what he's going through because I've stubbed my toe. And so, like, if Forrest and I both have a brain aneurysm, we might see similar wacky, crazy things. Like, because our brains are both failing, man, and they're both really, really similar. And I would definitely look more into that stuff, man. Go watch a bunch of Forrest stuff talking about the brain and Shannon Q. Like, that'll do it, man.
Yeah. There's a ton of info out there, and especially if you're interested in that specific thing, look up some cool stuff about this fun little part of the brain called the anterior cingulate gyrus. It's real big on that kind of like.
One more time.
Anterior cingulate gyrus. It's directly behind the prefrontal cortex right in here. If you split your brain, do a little sagittal cut right in there, and just look right inside, you see a little bloop, and that's where that guy is. And I'm grossly oversimplifying this next statement, but it plays a big part in like empathy and empathetic feeling, and like when you see somebody that you care about being hurt, you also don't literally feel the pain, but kind of have the same emotional reaction to the pain. That plays a big part in that kind of thing. And there's some really, really cool studies in that might help kind of develop the secular morality that we were trying to poke at with the last call as well. Anyway, Ivan, this has been really productive, I think, and I hope this helps you, and I hope you call us back and give us some updates on how your deconstruction goes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you guys. Yeah. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you, Ivan. Have an awesome day, man. Throwing pencils
Just throw
at me,
pen at
you
Forrest.
lunatic.
Yeah, a pencil at Forrest, I don't know why.
Jesus of Christland. I can't do it with the hair anymore.
It is. It's really good, though. I mean, it really is nice.
You know, it's crazy. I had long hair like about this length. It wasn't this beautiful, but in like all through middle school and then in high school, I had a ponytail like halfway down my back. This was a
that's
callback.
crazy to think about.
Yeah.
You know, for a high enough
Looks like a
super
dead
chat, we
animal
might
over here.
shave JMike live on the show. You know, just start sending donations and we'll talk about it. We'll
That'd be a
convince him
pretty
at some
big
point.
donation.
We've got a couple of calls here that are actually pretty similar. We're going to start with Joshua, pronouns he, him, calling in from unruly serpent acrobats.
Feels right.
What? The made by Jesus thought experiment, why the fine-tuning argument objections are too skeptical. I don't know what that means, but we're going to find out. Joshua, you are on AXP. How are you doing today?
I am doing nothing less than fantastic.
Oh,
I've been listening to all your conversations over like the past hour or so. And I can just say that the energy from you all is nothing less than infectious. And I'm hoping to tap into that throughout our entire discussion today. How are you?
Good. Oh, yeah, I love that. Yeah. I'm doing great, dude. So I'm trying to understand what it says here on the call screen. What's the made by Jesus thought experiment? What are you driving at here?
I am so excited that you asked me that question. So let me give you some of the context behind this. I think the fine-tuning argument for theism is one of the best reasons to believe that God exists. However, there are a number of different objections that exist that are oftentimes discussed in these lay objections against
I've got
the
a few
fine-tuning argument.
I've got a few
and
objections.
This thought experiment called the Made by Jesus thought experiment is designed to showcase that those objections are far too skeptical because they would cause us to violate some of our natural intuitions about how to reason about the world.
Okay, so hold on just a second before we get there, because I want to hear this, but you said it violates our natural intuitions. Are your natural intuitions like the best way to go about science and reason, the best way to go about discovering things about the universe is just through natural intuition?
So let me actually clarify that.
Sure.
When I say natural intuitions, I really mean our reasonable intuitions about how to reason about the world. Like, for example, the likelihood principle of Bayesian reasoning.
Right, but what I'm driving at here is that, like, when you talk about just intuition and, like, this kind of natural idea, the whole point of learning about logical fallacies is to learn to not use your natural intuition and reasoning and not to just go with what seems natural and what seems to fit into your normal. The point of learning logic, skepticism, critical thinking, whatnot, is to break out of the trap that your own heuristics lay for you. And it sounds like what you're saying is, no, the heuristics are good and you got to stick to them and then you'll find the truth. And I just want to clarify, is that actually what you're trying to get to here before we get into this thought experiment?
That is not what I'm trying to get to here.
Okay.
By intuition, I'm referring to like a disposition to believe. So if you were to go on the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, they have an excellent article on what intuitions mean in a philosophical sense.
No, philosophers don't agree on what intuition. Philosophers don't agree on what intuition is. I've talked to several philosophers about this, and they don't have an agreement. So that's not going to help. The SEP is going to list several different ways on how to understand that. They're not going to all agree with each other.
Let's set this aside for just a second, because I feel like this entire call could be this.
So move past it.
And we might actually come back to it depending on what your thought experiment is. So let's hear your thought experiment, and we'll stop you when it stops making sense.
That sounds excellent to me.
Okay.
So here is the Made by Jesus thought experiment. Imagine, if you will, for a moment, that we all lived in a universe where every single square inch of matter had the words made by Jesus Christ encoded on every single square inch of matter, or it was also encoded everywhere in the universe in some way, shape, or form. Maybe within like the movement of planets, on like the wave functions.
I feel like I already know where this is going, and I'm going to write it down really quick. Hold on just a second. You keep going.
Okay, yeah. So basically, thought experiment is that
the
words made by Jesus are encoded throughout the universe in a variety of ways. Perhaps the most easily, like written in every single square inch of matter. And this is all required by the fundamental parameters of the laws of physics. Now, if we were to believe several of the most popular objections, in lay discussions at least, to the fine-tuning argument, we should conclude a few different things. Well, namely, that this is not evidence in favor of theism, and it's certainly not evidence in favor of Christianity. And here's why. One could be a naturalist objection, kind of like the so-called single sample objection, which is that, well, we only have one universe to compare. So we can't know what the probability of a universe that has this life, that has this made by Jesus property all over it. Another could be something like, how do we know that the laws of physics that we observe, or that the fundamental parameters are not necessary? Because if they are necessary, then of course we're going to be living.
Okay,
in a
so let me jump in there on that one. Okay, yeah, because like.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because like that's gonna matter to me is like this talk of them being necessary, because we have like few options here. We talk about it like presumably what you want to do, like what a lot of people want to do in fine tuning is say, hey, look, there's all of these like ways that the cosmological parameters could be such that they could permit life, and there's this really small subset, probably maybe just one of those possible worlds where life is going to be. Yeah, and so the idea is that someone like myself, who's a naturalist, you want to point out like, hey, this is this giant brute contingency in your view, and it seems like really improbable under naturalism and a lot more probable under theism. So far, so good?
Yep, so far so good.
Great. Now, this is a problem. So, like, when you think about this, you don't actually arrest any brute contingency that you charge me with, right? It's assuming that I take this, that they're contingent route, because I could just take that they're necessary, and we can discuss that. But this, I really want to make sure I do this right, because sometimes people lose me here. So you stop me if you don't understand. When we think about the space of desires that God has for worlds to create, think of all the ways that the cosmological parameters could be. They could, like, just make universes collapse in on themselves. Maybe we'd be a little bit more liberal and we say they just produce like marbles, or they just produce like Forrest Valkais all the time. There's this giant range of There's this giant range of the way that these cosmological parameters could take place, assuming that they're not necessary, right? So on your view, if you look at like at the level of God's desires, right? God could have a desire that corresponds with any one of those worlds where it's just producing Forrest Valkais, it's just producing, universes that collapse in on themselves. But all you've really done was single out, like, you've just taken a hypothesis, but baked in an auxiliary hypothesis about what the desires of what this agent wants, which, by the way, you'll get for free. Like, I had someone I know used an example that I, altered, but like, it wouldn't be evidence if I pulled out my wallet and saw that there wasn't any money in it, and I go, oh, well, there's evidence for money-stealing fairies because it desires that thing, has the ability to do it, no reason not to do it, right? That would be like a really weak way for me to construct evidence. So when we zoom out on this view, it seems like all you've done was single out one desire that corresponds to the world that's life-permitting, right? And just kind of, from thin cloth, assess that that's God's desire. But why, like, what explains why God would choose that world rather than any of the other ones? And if you don't have some type of explanation, or you don't start adding more auxiliary hypotheses about the motivation, the characters, the character of that entity, the intentions, if you don't do this from like thin cloth stuff, it turns out you're going to have a brute contingency. You can't explain why God desires the world with life-permitting parameters rather than no world at all, or the ones with Forrest Valkais. And so what you did by pointing out, in my view, that there's this like brute contingency I should be worried about, you never really arrested it. You just brought it up on a higher level. So I'm going to ask you, why does God create a world with life-permitting constants rather than just no world at all, or a world with universes just collapsing on it?
I like the whole world.
I think that's an excellent thing to point out. There are a few different responses to it, but I think it's important just to contextualize what this means for the argument. Number one, suppose I do come up with like some ad hoc explanation, as Robin Collins would call it, to say, oh yeah, well, by definition, I'm just going to define into existence a God that wants for maybe even this very conversation to happen. And therefore, the fact that we're having a life-permitting universe and this conversation, that's evidence in favor of whatever God that I would like to argue for, right? So, what Robin Collins does is he declares this concept called probabilistic tension. Now, if it seems maybe it is very likely, depending on like the version of God that I would like to argue, that the evidence exists.
Yeah, but hold on, the version of God, that's the problem. I know, I'm sorry, but that's the problem I have, because like, what we should do is look at this from a bare designer hypothesis. Don't add any of these attributes. That's the whole point I'm trying to say, is it's not gonna be a mystery that you get this expected outcome if you bake into your hypothesis these types of like, character assessments about its desires and intentions.
What keeps throwing me off is it sounds like the core of this, and maybe I'm misinterpreting, but it sounds like the general idea here is that if every square inch of that had made by Jesus or whatever, it would be so common and it would be so obvious and it would be so natural that we would then overlook it. And we would just be like, okay, well, this is just the way things are, when in fact, it's this signature of God or whatever like that. And we wouldn't understand it.
That's the point I'm making, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I wrote down in my prediction before you started talking. Well, like the what I'm trying to say is that like, I could very easily say that is the case, and that the standard model of quarks, leptons, and bosons, we just give them the wrong letters. And if you spell them out, it actually says made by some other God that is necessarily incompatible with Jesus, it means the same nothing. Because at the end of the day, if the idea is that we can't tell what this God is saying, and at the fundamental level, this God is trying to prove herself and we can't see what she says, then it doesn't matter because it doesn't change it. And you can sit here and say, well, maybe she's trying to communicate with us. And I'm like, what if she isn't? And what if some other God is? And it means nothing. None of it means anything. So this thought experiment is just like, yeah, that'd be crazy. What do you want for lunch? That's where we go from there. Like, that doesn't help anything.
Well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, JMike, but I was sitting here thinking the whole time, like, well, like, first off, it's odd to think about every square inch of matter having this written on it. I don't know how you do that on, like, an atom or whatever.
Well, that's why I was saying, like, this with the standard model. Something's tiny.
Yeah, it's weird, right? But okay, like, let's just put that aside, right? But, like, even if every inch of matter had made by Jesus written on it, that alone does not mean that it was made by Jesus. That's not
What language
valid.
is it in? What if we develop language based on the little markings we happen to be seeing on every square inch of matter, and it just happened to spell these words? Like, there's a million what ifs and ands and except fors and unlesses, and the exact same proposition spun in a different way for a different God. Like, this thought experiment is certainly a thought experiment, but it is in no way useful or helpful, and it certainly doesn't mean that the fine-tuning objections, the very valid and reasonable objections to the bullshit fine-tuning argument, it doesn't mean that they are too skeptical. And also, I don't know what too skeptical means. And so like that, because skepticism doesn't just mean disagreeing for the sake of doing it. It means withholding belief until you have good evidence and asking good questions, even about things that you like. So like, you should be skeptical of the fine-tuning argument. It's a bad argument. And if you say, yeah, but what if the world was so fine-tuned that you wouldn't even know it's fine-tuned, then you wouldn't know it's fine-tuned, but it'd still be fine-tuned. What if anything? That's not
just make your problem harder.
That's not helpful. And if anything, it makes your God more confusing, because why did she make it this way just to hide herself? What's the point? If she's trying to, like, do it, you know what I mean?
I want to.
Yeah,
sorry, Josh, you go ahead. I just want to ask you my question over again.
There are all of these different hypotheses that we could come up with, like, for what kind of a universe that God would make, right? But do you think that it would be highly unlikely for God to make a universe that is life permitting?
No. This is what I'm trying to get at, right? This is what I'm trying to get at. This is what I'm trying to single back. Stop adding any attribute, desire, character, intention to this hypothesis. Let's start at a bare designer hypothesis. It's not clear to me that the bare designer hypothesis would even design anything. It could just be a designer that goes, I could design, I'm just going to chill and smoke a God bowl and just do my thing, right? So it's not clear that you're getting any...
Why don't I just provide you very quick...
Well, hold on. Let me just, hold on. Just let me get through this. All right. This is really important to me, because I don't really care about these objections are not good. I have my objections, and I think they're fucking good, right? So I'm just going to give you those, right? So when you have, like, you start out with this, it's not a mystery to anybody that when you look into the world, the thing you're seeking to explain, the explanandum, and in your explanans, the thing you're trying to do the explanation with, too many right? When you try to take the explanans and you give an account for the explanandum, it doesn't really help that what you did is look into the world, go, hey, okay, there's conscious creatures, there's life. Okay, let me take an auxiliary hypothesis and bake that into the desire of this agent. Of course you get that outcome. It's the same reason I get the outcome that when I open my wallet and there's no money in it, I can just be like, oh, okay, well, that's what's expected, when I look into the data, that, okay, well, there might be an entity that desires to steal it, has the ability to, no reason not to. If you hold that view, of course I can come up with stuff, but what we should do instead is strip those properties that give us this weird construction of evidence and tell me, right, from the bare designer hypothesis, what expectation, do you think there's an expectation on the bare designer hypothesis that it would choose any of the worlds that I listed without adding anything else?
I do, yeah.
Okay, how do you derive that
So,
expectation?
for example, so let's just say that for the bare designer hypothesis, it is an intelligent entity that is capable of making roughly whatever.
Why are no?
Right?
Like,
Why would it
you
be
just added
intelligent?
another auxiliary hypothesis, and I'm telling you to fucking stop doing that.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense that
Okay,
you
so-
would
so
get
what
to
do you
that.
Just imagine that it's like this is what I'm saying. Like, stop adding these auxiliary hypotheses that get you the expected outcome. That's so easy when you do that. Don't do that. Like, don't go when I say that, and then you just go, "Hey, let me add my auxiliary hypothesis that it's really intelligent and all this stuff that you haven't derived from anything but thin cloth, right?" Like, I'm getting kind of irritated because I've asked you like 3 times not to do that.
According to your definition.
Sorry?
So, like, what is a designer then? Like, what am I working with? Like, what is the bare design hypothesis?
Well, it can design something, and it can probably decide to not design it, though it has the capacity for design. That seems compatible.
Right.
The expectation of a designer is that it might design something and it might not design something.
Entity with the capacity to design. It doesn't mean that it necessarily does design, but again, what JMike is trying to get at is exactly what I think is the problem.
You can
with
only get this
stuff.
evidence once you add a lot of this
Right.
shit in.
You have to just bring on board all of these other assumptions.
Yep.
And you don't really have a good reason to get to those if you're just trying to say it is at its most basic a designer. You don't know that the designer is going to make things out of clay unless you just bring that on board and accept it. Which is why like the argument of like, you know, this is too skeptical doesn't really make sense because this is just bare level stuff. This is just us saying like, yeah, but how did you get to that? You walked into the room and was like, holy shit, there's a fucking unicorn outside. And we were like, well, how did you get to that, man? And you're just like, well, it's there. And we're like, well, that doesn't really. But it has a horn.
It's even worse. You go, why is the unicorn there? Well, there was something that desired the unicorn. And
Right.
I'm lifting this from like a friend, a person I've talked to online. I really like this example. They list out these 3 things, and I think it's brilliant. You have that unicorn there, and you go, well, why is it there? Well, because there's a desire for for that unicorn to be there. It has the ability to produce that unicorn, and no reason not to. And if I come, let's just use like a horse or something, right? Every time I come across a horse, now I've like have this evidence for the horse making designer, right? But I didn't really do anything. All I did was add these auxiliary hypotheses about the kind of character of that entity, the what it might be, the expectation might be if I look at the world and then start, oh, it desires that thing, has the ability to produce it.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying, like I've said on the show, I don't really like when people say there's no evidence for God because like maybe we should just talk about like there's good evidence versus not. I'm at the point where I don't think you can get any evidence for God. It's so trivially constructed when you just go, oh, it desires X, Y, and Z and has that ability to produce it. Voila, fucking I get the expectation out of it. That's just not, like, it isn't interesting to me. And hearing people have these conversations about this thing has kind of shifted my position on it.
Yeah, I'm going to let you, Joshua, respond to that, and then I'm going to say probably the same thing in different words, and then we're going to move on.
Yeah. So from a Bayesian standpoint, what we can say is that if I were to just build in auxiliary hypotheses, right, into my hypothesis to make it stronger such that it entails the evidence we observe, then what that will actually do is that will make the combination of the auxiliary hypothesis and like the bare hypothesis less plausible. So that wouldn't overall help the probability that I'm trying to assert anyway.
Well, I mean, I'm more of like on the frequentist side, so like maybe me and you can have a conversation. Like,
oh well, if you're into the frequentist side, then by all means,
I don't have an issue with like Bayes. There's a lot I don't understand about Bayes, you know. So, but no, I would like to have a conversation with that if you would be interested in. Like, probably not on the show because we'd be bored to fucking death.
Call back next time JMike's on and talk about these
something
people.
like that. We can because there's a lot more I want to learn about that.
But we've been going for about 18 minutes, Joshua, and frankly, I think the thing that is bothering, I know it's bothering them the most. The thing that bothers me the most as well about it always boils down to this with the fine-tuning argument is it's not just it was designed, it was designed this way for this reason by this guy from this version of this translation of this holy book and it's always so much more, and like just you're baking all that into the sauce when you really don't need to do so, especially considering the fact that you haven't even given a good reason to believe the very beginning of your premise. So you're just building this huge pyramid of bullshit on top of already very shaky ground, and I don't know how you can be comfortable doing that, but I hope you call us back and tell us more about it, Joshua, all right?
Joshua, sorry for being a little hostile towards you. I think we could have a good conversation. I do.
Maybe so. Yeah. Maybe so. Have a good day, Joshua.
That was not my phone for a fact.
Yep. Man. Yep. Dude, you're drunk.
Dude, you're drunk.
Are we supposed to drink or not supposed to drink?
You didn't get the memo?
I don't know in which direction we've blown it. We've got a really good couple of calls here, and especially I'm looking at line number 15 and number 18. I'm very excited about both of those. We're going to start with, just building off the fine-tuning argument, we're going to go with this one. We're going to talk to Mike, pronouns he, him, calling in from Wiggly Aardvarks.
And this Mike will try to zip it for a moment. I've got my quota out.
Oh, they're both named Mike.
Yeah,
That's why
we've got two mics
I was
on the
looking
line.
at the other mic, and I was like, well, that's not South Carolina,
Yeah.
but okay. Yeah, no.
Yeah,
I
no.
got you. I'm
We're
with you. I'm
talking
so sorry.
we're talking about Mike from Wiggly Aardvarks.
Yeah.
Talking about some lightly vibrating anteaters out here. Says if a scientist can't make a complete set of amino acids, then a warm little pond can't either. Talking about abiogenesis up in here, y'all. Mike, you are on the Atheist Experience. I believe we've spoken before, have we not?
Yeah, and you told me that you did that all the time in glass jars. And how come you didn't answer Mr. Tour's first question of his 5-question?
Yeah. We talked about how amino acids are made in laboratories through experimentation before. We talked about, so just to make sure I'm on the same page, we've mentioned the fact that there are over 500 different types of amino acids that have been discovered in nature. We've talked about the fact that we've discovered over 70 amino acids in space. And we talked about the fact that we only need 20 amino acids to make life on Earth. And your contention is that somehow or another, that's not good enough evidence for the abiogenesis hypothesis, for the idea that amino acids can self-assemble. Am I remembering that correctly? Not even abiogenesis, just the self-assembly of amino acids.
You have to write clueless on the board. That's how.
Yeah, so you think amino acids formed in a warm little pond?
No.
I think it's really strange that, Mike, I think it's strange that, you took time out of your day to call in at a specific time, to wait about 30 some odd minutes to talk with some people. And, JMike and I are great, we're super awesome. But this sumbitch, he actually studies this fucking shit. And for some weird reason, just the moment he started trying to have a conversation with you, you decided that you were going to shove your head fairly far up your ass. Would you like to actually speak with somebody that's knowledgeable on this and can converse with you and help you learn? Because it was just weird to me that you didn't address anything that Forrest said. He asked a question.
Let me finish what I was going to say.
It would be great if you asked the question I asked.
Why,
that's the
man?
whole thing. Is like what I asked you is that we've discovered we need.
You didn't ask. The question. Can I? I mean, our original question was.
I mean, we got to get it together first.
The original question was: we need
I don't care about.
we need 20 amino acids for life. We need 20 amino acids for life. We've discovered 70 amino acids in space, and we've discovered 500 amino acids just around in nature here on Earth. Why is that not a reason for you to accept the idea that amino acids, or at least give some evidence for the idea that amino acids can self-assemble?
Well, you can't make it do it in the laboratory.
So, really quickly,
Nobody
do you
can make
agree?
a set of amino acids sufficient for a protein to form.
Right. Do you agree that there was a time? Do you agree that there was a time when we could not generate lightning in a laboratory?
That has nothing to do with it.
It would be great if you could actually answer the question, Mike. It would be great if you could actually answer the question, Mike.
Progress.
Was there a time when we didn't have Van de Graaff generators? Was there a time when we didn't have Van de Graaff generators and we could not make lightning on our own? Is that true?
I'm not talking about lightning.
I'm not asking you about lightning too long. I just have 2 questions about lightning, and you're going to have to answer them. So is it true that at one point in history, we could not make our own lightning? We could only see it out in nature?
What?
Well, hell no, you don't. You can't answer the question. That's why you're being a poop about it.
I'm being a poop. That sounds like some shit I would say, and that's not a compliment. I'm asking you I'm asking you a question, and you're going to have to answer the question. Because see, what's happening here is that we're having a conversation. We're having a conversation. You're not here to preach at me. So because you called into our show to have this discussion, I'm leading you down a little logical pathway to help you understand why I don't accept what you're saying. So you're going to have to play the game, right? You're going to have to participate if you want to play. So is it true, Mike, that there was a time when scientists could not recreate lightning in a lab? Yes or no?
Answer Poop's question.
I don't care. Don't care. I'm not answering that.
Well, see,
Okay.
well, there you go, Mike.
Then you don't actually care about the
you
conversation.
aren't interested in this shit, man.
That actually is a great answer.
Thank you.
You don't care about the truth. You don't care about
That's
what's actually
fine.
happening. You don't care about the progress of science. You
Yeah.
don't care about what we've learned. You've decided what you want to believe, and you're going to believe it because you want to believe it because you want to believe it because you want to believe it. That's what you're demonstrating.
And that, honestly, Mike, I'm normally very, very kind, very compassionate. I try to be, you know. I'm going to tell you this, man, and I mean this to the deepest depths of my non-existent soul. I think that's fucking sad.
It is.
I think that is deeply, deeply sad. You have stripped away all of the beauty of this world, the one chance that you've got to really make a go of it. And you just decided you're going to sit in the fucking corner with a blanket on your head. And no matter how many times somebody comes up and tries to give you a little bit more of a view of the world you're in, you're going to just pull that fucking blanket tight. And hey, man, that's cool. That's cool, man. I don't know why, but if you're masochistic and you enjoy it, hey, call us back, man. We'll slap you around any fucking time. But that's weird, dude. That's just so weird to me. Like, learn stuff. It's awesome. Like, I'm wrong all the time, man. And then I find out there are sharks that glow in the dark. And it's like, that's so cool, man.
People aren't excited enough about sharks for real. Like in general,
They really do. They're amazing.
Did you know? There's different types of scales for fish. There's different. There's leptoid scales and cycloid scales and all these different kinds of scales. Sharks have placoid scales. They are made of dentin, the stuff that makes the insides of your teeth. Yeah, sharks don't just regenerate their teeth. They are literally lined with teeth, tip to tail. Yeah. Their scales are made.
Are they just like a sentient tooth? Is that what sharks are?
They're just a whole ass mouth.
Giant tooth.
They're a whole. They're just lined with teeth. Also, talking about how they can smell a drop of blood and however much. Fuck off. Do you know they have fucking ampullae of Lorenzini? They have electroreceptors. They can detect with their faces the electrical impulses that cause the muscle movement in their prey. They can smell electricity, for lack of a better word.
Fascinating.
And they're covered in teeth. Mike doesn't give a fuck. He hung up a while ago. But like, it's so cool. Also, I can't. What I was going to say to Mike is that there was a time when we couldn't make electricity in a lab. Electricity only happened in nature. We had no idea what it was. We had no idea what it was made of. Now I have a Van de Graaff generator at my house. I can literally crank a little thing and make lightning in my fucking house. It's just cool. And we've learned the thing now. So for you to sit here and say, well, scientists can't make every single amino acid. First of all, yes, we goddamn can. Second, we've made a bunch. We've made a bunch, y'all. We don't have a reliable abiotic way to do them like through or make them homochiral. I get that closer. I'm being a big old.
Did I get the arrow right?
It is. So great. It is deeply funny to me that a grown man said that I was being a poop today.
That's really good. That was really good.
That is some dumb
that
shit that I would say, and the fact that he said it so seriously. But yeah, like, dude, we don't know everything, but like we know a whole hell of a lot more than we knew 20 years ago. And I think it was on this show what we were talking about. If you were making this exact same argument 20 years ago, you could have said it about a lot of stuff. Yeah. And we've filled in a bunch of blanks since then. And so now you have to cram your God into a smaller and smaller pocket of ignorance until eventually you're going to be forced to say, well, obviously this chemical pathway that we now know very well is very complicated and very special, therefore God did it. And don't fucking pretend like that isn't what you're going to do, Mike, if you won't even address a question about whether or not we always knew what lightning was. Because fucking Mike thinks that people were walking around 2 million years ago with a goddamn Van de Graaff generator in one hand and a stone hand axe in the other. Yeah. Whatever. Like, dude, come on.
It's a crazy world.
Do better than you are, Mike.
Yeah.
And then call back. Or call back before then, because it's always funny. with that, we actually have a call. That call I felt was mainly for me. I have this one now that's mainly for Elliot. It is Benjamin. Pronouns he, him.
Oh, hey, Benji.
Calling in from agitated langoustines.
Right.
Talking about upset little lobsters, y'all. We got Benjamin who wants to defend slavery in the Bible yet again for who knows how many weeks in a row. Benjamin, you're on with Secular Rarity, JMike, and Poop himself. How are you today?
I'm good.
So can I ask a question, Ben, real quick? Yeah. I'm glad you did, man. It's good to talk to you again. I wanna ask this, and I'm being very genuine, okay, when I ask this. And I mean, just be honest. It's cool if the answer is really just like, I think it'd be cool to make you guys look like fucking idiots. That's all right with us. But like, why would you ever want to defend slavery?
That
like,
is a good
what?
question.
What is the motivation that gets you up in the morning and you just think, like, I can't imagine me ever waking up and just rolling over and thinking, like, you know what I'd like to do?
Defend slavery.
Yeah,
Let's defend slavery.
Let's defend owning people and beating the shit. Yeah. I just like just for fun.
Humans can be farming equipment. I'm going to prove it to the world today.
You'd be surprised, Elliot, with like the people. My girlfriend does debates, and the people that come in, they're literally like, "Today, I feel like defending being the most misogynistic piece of shit that I could possibly be on the planet."
Strange. It's very strange.
So
Benjamin.
help us out, honestly. Like what is the motivation?
I couldn't think of anything, so I defaulted to defending slavery in the Bible.
But do you want to do that? Like, you don't have to. Nobody is gonna look, I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna say this, okay?
Well,
I could be wrong. Hang on just a second, Benjamin. I could be wrong, okay? But I feel very confident when I say this, that if you in fact do not defend slavery today, you will not get struck down by lightning. I feel pretty good about making that. I'd put like $10 on it.
And when you get struck by lightning, you can sue Secular Rarity.
Yeah, you'll get all $10.
Of money.
I don't know, man. Why
I don't even know how that would work.
I'm just saying, the gauntlet has been thrown. Make a better argument, and you could win a lot of money or not die from lightning.
It doesn't seem like this is like super.
Benjamin, do you want to be my slave?
Not really.
Yeah. Why don't you? Why don't you want to be my slave? Just give me some reasons why you don't want to be my slave. It'd suck, right?
Well, hold on. I was gonna make a spin on this. I was gonna call
There's
in.
no spin.
And I was gonna.
There's no spin for slavery, Benjamin.
There's
no spin for slavery. It's just bad. Slavery is bad all the time, and all the time, slavery is bad. That is the official position of the atheist community of Austin. I've decided just now.
Well,
Thank
I
you.
was going to try
We'll sign the document right here. It is signed by old Poop. We are good to go. Notarized.
Like a big old John Hancock, big old Poop right there in the middle.
I think I can get my mother to notarize. I think she has that actual power, so you can try that.
I'd get a better default, is what I'm saying. Like if you're waking up and you're just like, hey man, I didn't know what to call about, I guess slavery might be good.
I don't think this is that important for you, Benjamin.
I don't get why this is the hill you want to die on.
Yeah, and that's like I have talked to some people before where they've basically had the stance of, look, if you can convince me that God is really okay with slavery, then like I'd agree my God's not super moral and he's probably a dick, But that doesn't seem like where you're coming from, man. It just kind of seems like it's a fun like little romp. Which I get you, man. I like to debate and argue and yell and shit, but like, why not do it about other things? Just anything. A pineapple on pizza is a way more worthwhile discussion than somebody ever being like, let me just see how I can own people again.
I actually have an argument for that.
For the pineapple on pizza?
Yeah.
Okay, well, hang on a second.
Wait,
we got to get through the slavery stuff first. See? This is the problem. We don't get the cool
slavery before we fix pizza.
Look, all I'm saying is tomato is a fruit, makes it a fruity pie, and that means that it's permissible to put other fruit on the pizza. That's all I'm saying.
And also own people? Where are you coming from?
No.
All right, go ahead, Benjamin.
I was going to make this interesting.
Let's try.
You hear me?
Yeah.
Let's make it interesting.
I'm going to use the reasoning that other people would use And I was going to say it's okay because God says so.
Well, no, I mean, but that's obviously
I
silly,
wanna
Ryan.
try-
That sucks.
Yeah, that's
That
dumb.
It's literally
right?
called a naturalistic fallacy.
Yeah,
like you don't, if you look at something and you go, it is this way, and therefore it ought to be. Like you can't go, God is the creator, therefore you ought not engage in homosexual activity.
Right,
you
that's
can't
true.
even conclude that you ought engage in homosexual activity. There is no way. It's an issue with it legitimately is an issue with deductive logic. If you take like just descriptive premises and then subsume some value in the conclusion, it came from fucking nowhere, right? You can't preserve the truth of the conclusion with this like. All of a sudden, you're like, hey, you ought not do this. And this is like a point, David Hume made, was just like all these religious people are saying, we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do that, right? But where does it come from, right? And even when you try to derive it, like God is the creator, or God is loving, or is like you can't get that conclusion out of it. So
It makes your
I
God
also-
so
that's
weak.
that's just the naturalistic fallacy.
Yeah. Also, the issue with divine command theory is that the issue with divine command theory like that anything God says is good is automatically good because God says it, is that I can make the exact same argument about some other God that says something completely. My God says that slavery is bad, and now you don't have a moral ground to stand on. You can't say no. Actually, this is how I feel about human rights and dignity. All you can say is, yeah, but you have the wrong God, and we get absolutely nowhere. And so, like. Let's try a thing. I don't know if you said you've talked to this guy before. Let's just try a thing. Elliot said a second ago that he's met some people who can say, if God is okay with slavery, then God's not a good guy. You seem to be pretty convinced that God's okay with slavery. Does that make God a good person if he's okay with slavery?
Not really.
Okay. Do you believe this God is real?
I was going to say.
Do you believe this God is real?
Say something.
Well, hold on. Do you believe this
I believe
God?
God's real.
Do you worship this God?
No.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Fascinating.
I'm so.
I know.
I am so in the weeds.
I know. I know.
So you believe this God is real. You don't worship him or like him, but you do believe that he's a moral monster. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. So then we can abandon the slavery thing. Holy fuck! Why are we talking about
Yeah,
slavery?
it has no bearing on
Why
this.
do you
Then let's
believe-
just talk about the existence of God.
We could solve so many problems for you and so many others, Benjamin. Why do you believe in God?
Personal experience in the Bible. I went through this before last week.
And the Bible. Okay, well, we can't really dive into like first-person revelation.
We covered at the beginning of the show that the Bible is
Can I say something?
the Bible's inconsistent and shitty. So like what about the Bible?
Yeah,
Why?
exactly.
I wanna say something.
Okay.
Jesus this, Moses that, Abraham him, all that. You ever seen Little Nicky?
A
I
long
have to
time
stop. That'd
ago.
be funny.
Okay.
Why do you believe? You said the Bible, okay? Like, or do you care that Jesus died on different days according to, I believe, Mark and John? Is that important to you? That John, for example,
if you're referencing he died on Friday, and then another one said he died on a Sunday.
Sure. Do you know why John does that? Do you know why John does that? With the author of John?
Inconsistency.
No, John is trying to stress a theological point because what he wants to do is have Jesus slaughtered during the slaughtering of the lambs to be the Lamb of God that takes away the sin of
Yeah.
But look, that's just contradictory to what we have in Mark. And you start to look at the development, because we have like Mark and priority, which is first. Once you see this development of people shifting and changing it and then putting like this verse, which is a theologically stressed verse. It's somebody trying to make a theological claim. Why would you believe it if it directly has evidence of people stressing theological claims that aren't congruent with the first bit of it? Why would you believe it?
I talked about some of this like a week or 2 weeks ago, so I could go back over it if you want me to.
I'm just asking why you would believe stuff that I can sit here all day long and throw you these inconsistencies, which, by the way, doesn't show that like Christianity is false. I just want to know like why you think it's true given a lot of these issues. Like what is it that convinces you other than in the Bible, not the first person experience, but you read the Bible and you think it's true. How can we test it? Like, help me out here, because it just sounds like right now I got a book says a thing, so I need a little bit more.
Well, so I don't believe in all the Bible. I also don't believe that God's all good, but we've already established that.
Okay, what parts? When you believe certain parts of it, why do you believe those parts rather than others?
Because they're good for society, some of it.
Is something having utility indicative of it having truth? Like if something is useful for me, does that mean that it is also some true proposition out in the world?
It depends on what it is.
My socks,
so.
My socks really help me play my hit home runs during my baseball game.
Yeah.
Right, and it provides that utility. Does it mean that the socks are making me hit the home run?
That depends. What kind of socks?
Does it?
Let me ask you a different question, Benjamin. If you can say the Bible has some utility to it, and that the Bible is helpful and it teaches us good things, therefore it might be true. What about all the horrible things it teaches, like, I don't know, slavery? Oh. So doesn't that mean that it's not true because it has a bunch of horrible shit about stoning children and about cutting the hands off of people?
I know that could be true too, but that could be true too. But you have to learn lessons from it because back then they did a bunch of stuff.
Full House gives me lessons. That doesn't mean Full House is true.
But also, we can learn horrible lessons and true things and all stuff just from history. And also, history is a true thing. And so, like, we can go out and use science and use inquiry to go out and study our actual history and learn horrible things and good things and important things and lessons and all stuff from the world around us. We don't need a book with talking donkeys in it, right? So, like, why you need this?
Did it have a talking donkey?
Yeah.
Sure does.
Yeah,
Sure does.
Yeah.
Couple of animals talk. But really, ultimately, man, and I think we're all hitting at this, which is it's fairly inconsistent, man, where you're coming from here. And it really, really feels like you are just twisting yourself into pretzels, man, to the point that you're calling in to defend something for a God that you don't even worship, man. Like, you're calling in to say, like, nah, his slavery wasn't that bad, but he is still kind of a dick. It just... Brother, Benjamin, you don't have to. I'm telling you, man. Like, we got this whole room full of non-believers, been living their lives absolutely wonderfully, not defending slavery for a God that they don't worship. So, like, you can do that too, man. You don't have to keep doing that. So,
what about incest? Like, if
Jesus Christ, we're not going to start that right now.
What about
it's there. It's in the Bible.
What's on your mind?
It's also not good, and also the Bible's into it.
Yeah,
so, like,
we're going to have to talk about that another time, man. There's no way. Hey, you know what?
What about taking a pile of shit and eating it? It's like, I don't know. It's gross.
I
I
got a great idea. The next time Cross-Examiner is on, or Armin or Seth Andrews, call them and ask that question. Just start it just like that. Just hey guys,
what about incest?
What about incest?
God, I would pay to watch that episode.
Great.
Yeah.
Pro, con,
yes, how do you feel? Like 6 out of 10, like just on the weekends?
I just know Seth Andrews is going to do that thing where he's like,
oh yeah,
that kind of look that helped me. Hey, Benjamin, thank you for calling in and spending some time with us. We'll talk to you later, maybe. Goodbye.
I gotta stop telling people to call back. It's
Especially
really
Benjamin.
it's my fault.
Don't
do it.
It's weird. It's I guess I feel for Benjamin. It sounds like he is like he's kind of gotten into it sounds like he's gotten deep into his feelings about this, where he's like, well, I can't let go of this because that would mean that I'm wrong. He admits that God isn't good. He admits he doesn't like this God. But at the end of the day, there was an argument, and he needs to win the argument, and he can't change his mind on the God thing because that would be changing his mind. It sounds like this dude is just locked down into something. And dude, Benjamin, you don't need to be. You are better than this God. And honestly, if you applied just the same kind of reasoning that you would to literally anything else, I think you'd be free of this belief as well. You can shake off these chains and be done with it tomorrow. And then you don't have to defend slavery anymore.
Yeah, or incest, if that's where we were going. Yeah.
Where did the incest come from, Benjamin?
That's also a great way to like end a conversation with somebody.
Hey, surprise!
that incest.
20 minutes into it, just be like, so incest.
Yes, I would like cheese on the burger. And incest, by the way. Like, let's talk.
This date has not been going very well, apparently.
Harsh bud, bruh.
You all right, Poop?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Oh man, I am. It's a weird time. We're gonna go ahead and jump on over to a caller who's been waiting for a very long time. We've got Steve, pronouns he, him, calling in from nearby earwax. What? Who wants to discuss a scientific paper about the Cambrian explosion and defend the concept of panspermia. Why are you calling here? But also, he's a theist, so let's see what happens. Steve, you are on AXP. How are you doing today?
Yeah, hey, Forrest. I'm so glad you're on the show today.
Me too.
Yeah,
we are as well.
SR and JMike there too. Yeah, hey guys.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm a repeat caller. I really enjoy your show, and thanks for having me again.
Yeah, it says
So
I'm looking at the last time you called.
Yeah, I called the show last week, but this week I wanted to discuss a research paper titled "Cause of the Cambrian Explosion: Terrestrial or Cosmic."
That's Steele et al. 2018 for people who want to look it up. I pulled it up before you started.
Yeah, it's in the Progress of Biophysics and Molecular Biology.
Yeah.
August 2018.
Yeah.
And this was compiled by 33 biologists, and they present evidence suggesting that octopuses are of extraterrestrial origin, and this is based on their complex genome and unique ability to promptly edit their RNA for rapid adaptation to changing environments.
Yeah.
And directed panspermia does thus explain how the octopus's intelligence, camera-like eyes, and camouflaging skills suddenly appeared on Earth from seemingly out of nowhere.
Okay.
And the study's researchers hypothesized that cryopreserved fertilized eggs of cephalopods were transported from space to Earth, and then they had soft landed on Earth some few hundred million years ago.
Yeah, so I'm looking over. So I haven't read the paper. I read the abstract very quickly just to make sure I knew what we were talking about. I didn't read it very well. I just kind of skimmed through it while we were taking other callers because I saw you on the screen there, and I wanted to make sure that I at least knew a little bit of what we were talking about. And yeah, they have three major focuses in this. They focus on the emergence of complex retroviruses in vertebrate lines just before the Cambrian. So they're talking about endogenous retroviruses, and that's kind of new-ish research in there. So like that's kind of cool. They talk about, let's see here. The evolution of complexity with encephalopods, and then they talk about microorganism fossils. The evidence of microorganism fossils contained within meteorites. Which there's one example which I was actually just talking about with one of our audience members earlier on. Yeah, about this meteorite from Mars, which had some indication, some evidence of the possibility of trace fossils of microorganisms, not confirmed. It's very similar to like when they found phosphine in the atmosphere of Venus, and they were like, this could be a sign of something that's kind of like life, but it's not life yet. And so all these together, this paper is more or less arguing for panspermia, not just once, but actually repeated panspermia. There's different events. And that's cool. And yeah, you're right. There's a shit ton of authors. The et al. is et al.ing. It's strong. And like there's a shit ton of authors on here. And it's pretty cool. Yeah. There's a lot. And they draw a lot of cool stuff here that they're talking about to kind of build this case. But at the end of the day, like it's still the panspermia. Just kind of like it's just a hypothesis that we have that we're going around. Like this is cool. I would maybe, I don't know if I'm going to read this paper later, but I might. What's the case you're making here?
I do love the idea of like baby octopus like falling from the sky.
Have you ever seen an octopus egg? They're wild. And so,
I do like that.
So like are you wanting me to do like a lit review of this paper? Because I need to read the damn thing first. Like, or do you want to tell me something that you believe because of this paper?
Right. Well, I wanted to focus specifically on directed panspermia because others hypothesis they have about the, I think they hypothesized about some ancient extraterrestrial virus that inserted genes into a primitive squid population and then caused prompting the rapid evolution from squid to octopus. That's not really directed. I'm a proponent of directed, a specific time. type of panspermia. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I don't think they mention, I'm double checking in here. I don't think they mention any kind of direction to panspermia. They're just saying this is shit that can happen. And that's kind of like the whole, I forgot what it's called, but this idea that for a little bit after the Big Bang, the entire universe literally would have been at the right kind of temperature and pressures and whatnot for the beginnings of life, and therefore the quote seeds of life could be uniformly spread across the entire universe, waiting for a planet to come along with the conditions necessary for them to flourish, and that's why life is able to exist in different places, and therefore panspermia is kind of like not a thing, it's just ubiquitous, or it could be a thing that's deposited because maybe it's actually localized in different places, and we know, carbonaceous chondrites, I think, are the ones that deposited, a lot of water, and we know that we find amino acids and nucleotides and shit or nitrogenous bases, not whole nucleotides, in fucking meteors and whatnot. So the pieces could have come here, or maybe the pieces became life over there and then came here. You're arguing for something much more significant, which is the idea that no, there was an actual intelligent force that directed the seeds, quote, here. In this case, deliberately fertilized eggs of goddamn cephalopods. That's what you're saying, which is a much bigger claim.
Right. I'm saying that I'm focusing on their hypothesis that these cryo-preserved fertilized eggs of cephalopods were transported through space, and then they had soft landed on Earth. And I think that would be, if that hypothesis is true, then doesn't that mean that life was probably seeded deliberately on Earth?
No.
Because
while cephalopods are life is not cephalopods. And so, even if you want to take the weird position that cephalopods are so very weird and different and unique that there's no way they could share phylogeny with the rest of life on this planet, which is dumb, in my opinion. But that's, even if you want to take that position, saying for sure, even if we knew for sure that cephalopods were extraterrestrial in origin, doesn't say anything for the rest of life on Earth, which had all the tools necessary to self-assemble and form here. And we're learning more and more about how that happened every day. And also the clear phylogeny and evolutionary relationship of every other thing that lives or has lived on this planet, even if you want to exclude cephalopods, which, again, can't stress enough, you shouldn't. So even if we can somehow say, yes, no, for sure, here, we have a videotape of it, here's a cephalopod egg, fertilized, coming in from outer space, you're getting on the planet, becoming an octopus, and then that octopus did stuff. Even if you want us to go that route, doesn't say anything for panspermia of any other life on Earth ever.
Okay, so if octopus are alien, shouldn't they have rights? Shouldn't they? I mean, people shouldn't be eating them. Shouldn't they?
Where are we going, dude?
Considered. I was waiting for the theism part.
Yeah, honestly,
that's what's
it took me
me
a
off.
second for that to hit.
I'm throwing so it sounds like you're just jumping from one thing to the next. At the end of the day, you're arguing for an intelligence that is putting life on Earth on purpose. That's what you're talking about.
And octopus rights.
And apparently octopus rights. But we'll get to octopus rights in a minute. Because I can't stress enough that the beginning of your argument there was if octopi are extraterrestrial, but they fuck, dude. If there are gnomes under this building, could their nervous systems be made of cotton candy? Maybe.
But do they deserve rights for it?
The gnomes do not.
No gnome rights.
It's the official position of the atheist community of Austin that gnomes do not deserve rights.
We do discriminate against gnomes here. Yeah, suck it.
Especially the ones under this building.
AXP people
messing with the foundation.
Yeah, don't kick lawn gnomes.
Anyway, Steve, what does any of this have to do with a god?
Oh, wow, what is happening?
Katie Stewart.
Well, I'm saying if life were seeded on Earth,
I can't show the world how messy
the way hypothesized in the paper.
Thank you. That's
cause of the Cambrian explosion, terrestrial or cosmic. If it were guided, that way, that would have to have been done by intelligence. by
I
No,
don't
it
think.
wouldn't.
Yeah, I just don't think that's you're still coming out of nowhere with that.
Yeah.
Like it seems like okay, there is some information out there that we could plausibly get to the conclusion that life came, from outside of the Earth and maybe even our solar system. Like, yeah, cool. Again, like Forrest has been saying a bunch today. Like, we found a lot of this shit in space. Okay, so it's not radical and crazy.
But there is a gap.
There is definitely a gap, A, and then B, a bigger gap when it's like, no, aliens were actually sending, ancient octopus here a long time. Like that's, and again, I love this. I cannot tell you how much I love the idea of alien octopi raining.
I'm rooting for him to be alien.
I'm for it on a personal level, but I don't think there's any good fucking reason.
Yeah, one thing that really bothers me is like you're saying, well, it'd have to be some intelligence that's seeding these octopi around.
Doesn't make any
How did
sense.
the moon form, my dude? We got hit by a major planetesimal that knocked off a chunk of the Earth at the diameter of North America. If you're telling me that these octopus seeds are fucking octopus seeds, dude. If they're
weird.
If they're able to come through the atmosphere and not burn up upon re-entry, land on the Earth in a soft enough way to not explode and still be viable and hatch, I think they'd be able to be knocked off a planet by an event like that. That kind of cataclysm clearly isn't going to bother them. So no, it doesn't indicate intelligence. They could have come here a different way. It's like saying that monkeys in South America only could come from intelligence because rafting is a big idea.
And this is the same, like what you said is like way like you can actually point out to these things where there's just like some causal disposition occurring and it's not intentional. But this is the same thing that I was saying to the other person where when you start adding the intention, whether it's from like the aliens or from the gods, all you really did was you looked at the thing you're talking about with the octopus and then you just were like, okay, well, there's something that desires oh my God, what is happening right now?
It looks right.
This is all falling apart completely. No, this is the perfect. Hi.
Now I feel
He's a biologist, so I really wanted to ask him.
I get that. I want to try to, if I can, like make this just clear on like.
Okay.
I know I'm going to be like a broken record, but looking at the world and then assigning intelligence or like a desire to it is the same thing I was saying earlier that I don't know how we're doing this. How you're making like novel predictions on the intentions of some being out there. It seems like you're doing is you're talking about some like real potential science here. We're getting somewhere. And then all of a sudden you make this move where you go, okay, well, the thing responsible for that has these desires, has this character, has this intention. And there is like an infinite array of ways that we could, contribute to the character of somebody. Like we can just list out things that are not compatible with what you have in mind. And then the question is, how do you derive that? And we've left the science realm on novel predictions and testability and falsification, and we've just entered like, well, I have this thing in my head, and when I look in the world, I think something desires that thing, and that's what explains it. But literally, I could do that with like bricks and anything and just go, well, there's something that, the reason why bricks exist because there's like a brick lord, and he desires bricks, and that's why we have bricks.
That is true.
It does nothing. It's just, and I really appreciate like you coming in on the science stuff.
Can I ask a couple questions to the
we enter into the philosophy very quick.
Can I have Forrest a couple of questions, please?
I mean,
if
you
Forrest,
really want to.
Can chiral preservation happen outside
like you didn't
the
even
lab?
listen to me.
No, he didn't give a
That's
shit.
fine.
Yeah, man.
Could you repeat back what I said?
Yeah, dude. Look,
Science guy, I want to talk to him.
Yeah, well, fuck you too.
I don't want to talk about this because like what's happening is that like what JMike was just eloquently saying and what you ignored is that like what you're doing is you're saying here's this potentially true, probably not, potentially true crazy event, and that indicates intentionality. And I don't get why you're making that leap. You could very easily have said exactly that with any other definitely true crazy event. You're talking about chirality, homochirality in amino acids that generate life. Does that indicate intentionality? Also fucking no. But like it maybe you could make that stretch, and instead you're taking some obscure paper about goddamn space octopuses.
33 biologists
I don't
Dude.
care.
33 out of how many in the world?
How many biologists do you think work at the Discovery Institute?
biologists.
There's lots. Lots of biologists work at the Discovery Institute. Lots of biologists work for Answers in Genesis. Lots of biologists work in lots of places. Just being a biologist doesn't mean that you're right. And trust me, I've met plenty. And there's lots of biologists out there that disagree with me on some stuff, that I disagree with them on some stuff. It happens. It just means that they've learned a bunch of shit and they're good at doing research and they're able to publish a thing. Having a published paper doesn't mean that you're right. Having a degree doesn't mean that you're right. Being a biologist doesn't mean that you're right. What being right is all about is comporting with what you're saying, comporting with reality. That's what's important.
And you've left the science, like you've left that realm and you've entered in like philosophical like speculation, right?
Yes.
That's where we're at right now.
How many of the however many 20-something biologists on this paper believe in God? And how many of them believe in your God?
Yes.
I bet that's a very different number. And I bet suddenly the amount of biologists on the paper doesn't fucking matter to you anymore because you're just talking about your God. So like, it's just like, I understand this is an interesting paper. I haven't read it, but like, it looks neat. And I'm sure there's some cool shit to talk about here. Well, and what you're doing is saying, this is interesting, therefore 80 new premises, and then it leads up to the God that I want to believe in.
Yeah, and I'm interested on like, because I know you don't want to fucking talk to me, but I'm just going to ask you, and just see if you're dishonest. You could probably just like ignore it's me if you really have a problem with me. How do you derive when you look into the world and go, there's something that desires that? How do you get that? How do you go from there's this thing, now there's this super powerful thing that really desires it, wants it to happen, and no reason not to happen? How do you get there?
Well, maybe I just have a confirmation bias. Maybe
probably. Oh my God.
Yes, you
That's
do.
awesome.
Wow, okay.
That was phenomenal, Steve.
That's it.
I want to be a proponent of directed panspermia. I want to believe in something.
Right.
Fuck yeah,
I don't
man.
have a problem with the panspermia thing.
So what's the problem then?
It's the intentions that you're attributing. Is what I
Right. So then, Steve, would you rather promote something because it's true and you have a good reason to believe that it's true, or would you rather promote something because you want to promote it? Which is a better thing for you to be doing with your time?
The truth is out there.
It is.
That's not what I asked you.
It is out
Is
there.
it better to be
It's true.
promoting
It is out
something
there.
because it's true and you have evidence to believe that it's true, or is it better to promote it because you just want to promote it? Which is better?
Well, it depends on what the truth is. Some people,
Nope.
Is it
not
though?
at
How
all.
does that work?
saying vague shit.
Not at all.
How does that work, man?
Steve, your answers to my questions tell me everything I need to know about your thought process, and it sucks. I hope you start believing more true things and less false things, and caring more about whether or not what you believe is actually true. Because if you care about whether or not you believe is actually true, you won't be caught in the same logical traps that you're putting yourself in right now. Steve, we got to go to the next call. I appreciate you calling in.
It would be so awesome if one day we truly could provide the evidence to indicate that, like, panspermia is real. Like, that's how it happened. Like the whole, like, Star Wars, Star Trek thing we've been talking about for fucking ever. Like, it's out there. Like, that would be so badass, man. But, like, we're just so not there yet. And wasting your time accepting this conclusion right now is just odd to me. There's so much more progress we can do right here. And also, like, I don't know, but for me, every time this discussion starts, I just think about, like, sperm floating in space, and that just makes me feel like it's dirty. And I just feel like I need to take a shower, so.
Yeah, it's a bad time all around. And, like, I don't know, man. Like I was trying to get across, like, even there, it's not like this is a new idea. The panspermia thing, it's super neat, and there's lots of things that people say about it. It's super cool. But, like, even if we knew for sure that was a thing, you're making 50 other assumptions, and that sucks.
Hey, just real quick, though, because, I mean, I've heard a bunch of people say it, that, like squids and octopus and shit, are aliens, but I mean, it's like a joke, but, like, they do, like, fit in the phylogeny tree. Right? I've never, like, really looked it up to make sure that their DNA is like the same, but, like, when like they have cells that are
they're eukaryotes.
They're other.
Just like
so they are. It's very obvious.
Similar DNA structures.
All right,
and all
cool.
this
I was just making sure. I was just
rip
be
them
wrong.
biscuits in half and take one of mine.
We've been passing little notes
About what kind
They're
of
fighting
pizza,
about
what
the
kind of
pizza here, you guys. This is where we're at.
Take one of them.
He goes, do you want cheese or pepperoni? And I
Put
wrote
it on
back,
the same plate. You
okay. Sorry.
Okay, well, I guess you're that one then. Here, I'll take this.
How many skeptics does it take to slice up pizza?
Yeah, exactly.
They brought us pizza. I flew all the way to Austin, Texas to talk about space octopi and eat pizza on a live stream. What is my life?
And then pass notes to me. Hey,
Yes.
this is Forrest. Do you want cheese or pepperoni? I go, your call. And he goes, one of each. And I just go, smiley
You just
face.
wrote a smiley face.
Smiley
There's
face,
cute shit going on in here, y'all. You got to come down to the back cruise. You can be a part of this. Look, the audience is quite happy. They're all thrilled. They're loving the fact that they spent money to be here right now to eat 3 grown men.
Hey, look at them! Oh my God!
Hey! There's more of them on either side of that camera, but like they're very happy with their life choices. They're watching 3 grown men consume pizza and argue about panspermia, and that's
So here's really the question.
what a show.
I can't eat it.
Here's really the question. So pineapple on pizza is old hat, but like baby alien octopi on pizza?
Hold on.
Is that
I have an actual argument for that. So maybe I'm gonna screw this up, but it'd be like premise 1: if tomato is a fruit, then pizza is a fruity pie. Okay. Premise 2 is gonna be like, if pizza is a fruity pie, then fruit is permissible on pizza. Okay. And then if fruit, I guess premise 3, if fruit is permissible on pizza, then pineapple is permissible on pizza. And then the conclusion is therefore, if tomato is a fruit, then pineapple is permissible on pizza, and that is a valid argument. It takes inference rules, hypothetical syllogism. Come at me, non-pineapple people.
The issue then is also durian is permissible on pizza, and like every other
You
potential
shut
fruit.
your
It does. It opens up.
That
This
shit
is the
stank.
problem. I don't know if I want to live in that world that is so open like that.
That does not.
Yeah. What are we
And
going to
it's
put
not-
kiwi fruit on pizza?
There's already like peppers are fruits, and so you've got plenty of other fruits, but like
I really do like jalapenos and like the
those are fruits. Bell peppers are fruits. Jalapenos
Wow,
are
honestly,
fruits.
you guys, my whole fucking world is shattered right now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't even eat pineapple on pizza. I'm just trying to help everybody.
Strictly
out there,
speaking,
my pineapple people.
Botanically speaking, peppers are also berries. So they're berry because they have multiple internal seeds. So they're berries. So it's like blueberries on pizza, y'all.
See, this seems too complicated. That just seems weird.
Eat
know?
what
And it
you
makes-
want as long as it's not the flesh of a god man.
Yeah, stop doing that. That's an easy one.
That's all. That's all.
That's reasonable.
Yeah. Holy fuck.
We still have calls.
We have like.
You said you're going to keep going.
so
Yeah,
many
you said you're just going to keep
Yeah,
going.
I said that, and then 2 hours passed.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah,
Well, by the way, we've
We got
gone through them,
pizza.
and the number 11 has just stayed the same.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Right,
ahead and-
it
I'm
hasn't
gonna-
gone down.
I'm gonna say just to keep these guys, let's save some time. I'm gonna say we're not gonna do any atheist calls. We're only gonna do theist calls. For
Okay.
the rest of the show. Is that good for
I think
everybody?
that's fair.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
Sorry, callers.
Yeah, sorry,
We
people.
love
If you're
y'all.
waiting for a little while,
We also have like an audience that we want to be able to interact with.
right. We've also been here for a very long time, so like we're gonna just take our theist callers for now, and if any other theists call in, then they do. But like we're gonna stick with these ones for the time being. I think. Didn't throw up. I think that.
That's why I didn't do the show the other Sunday and had him fill in. I thought I was going to do that.
This pizza is the cheese tastes so real. We've got Jimmy, pronouns he, him. It's just goddamn Jimmy Jr. sitting out there.
I think it is.
From New York, who just says, "Why don't you believe in God?" Jimmy, you've called the perfect show with this question. How are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. Do you hear me?
You sound a lot different, Jimmy.
We do.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, it's unfortunate the way you guys are just laughing at a serious matter.
Oh, okay.
Laughing at like
The belief in God?
The belief in God and stuff? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, yeah, you guys.
Ha 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 ha. The belief in God is silly. There's no good evidence for it. Look
I
at
mean,
that.
like, we understand people believe it sincerely, and I don't want to mock a person.
Right.
But, like, I'm absolutely going to mock a belief, and I'm absolutely going to mock the God that they're believing in, because the God that people believe in, generally speaking, is laughable.
Right.
Some of my best friends are Christian. I just don't care about insulting them. I care insulting the beliefs that they have.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're not going to laugh at a person unless they do something really funny, like Mike.
They give me shit for like naturalism and stuff.
Yeah,
what we
that's-
do.
my
you know?
buddy says that to me all the time.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, that's weird.
Yeah. What's the issue with us giggling about God, Jimmy?
You guys are so prideful. I just hope that when you die, you stand.
Can we stop with the meta? Can we stop with the meta? Do you have anything of substance, or you just like your whole shtick? Just like I can make meta attacks like a child.
You want to know why we don't believe in God? Is that a genuine question you have? Because we'll all answer.
Yes. I have a genuine question, but you guys are not taking.
No. Get with the question. Stop with the meta. Stop with the meta, please.
What's your question?
I hate that. I really hate the meta.
Okay. What do you mean by the meta? Just
don't talk about me, who I am, what I do. Talk about the proposition that if I died of a heart attack right now, it'd either still be true or false, right? It doesn't matter about if I exist. Don't worry about me.
No,
worry about.
Okay. It's not about you per se. I'm talking.
Okay, you're still doing it though, so please stop. Like, let's just move on.
Just go to the question.
Meta. This is meta.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm telling you that I believe the Bible.
Okay,
I believe the Bible.
Hold on. You believe the Bible. I want to let you finish the sentence here. You believe in the Bible. You believe in the God of the Bible. Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Do you believe in the whole Bible word for word, or do you believe the Bible needs to be interpreted?
I believe in the whole Bible. The Bible is the word of God, yes.
Okay.
You think it's all literal?
Yes.
Okay. So then let's deal with that. Number one, I think it's important to point out, at the beginning of this show, we pointed out several contradictions in the Bible. There are several places in the Bible where one part of the Bible says one thing and another part of the Bible says something else. So how can the whole thing be true if different parts of it say different things?
Excellent question. Number one, I was not here at the beginning of the show, so I didn't know what contradiction you guys pointed out.
That's fine. We can revise some for you.
We can give you several. I have like 5 on the top of my head.
Do you want us to point some out to you?
I don't know if point a contradiction, like what you're saying.
Well, there's a couple. So like direct contradiction would be something like when did Jesus die?
That's a good point. Yeah. Right? On what day did Jesus die?
Jesus died on the cross, and he died on the fourth day. It was on the third day. So
what day of the week?
Yeah,
what day of the week?
Like, was it a Monday? Was it a Thursday? Was it like
before Passover?
Yeah, after Passover. When?
Oh, he died on Friday. It was on Sunday.
Are you sure though?
No, look.
Okay.
Okay. No.
So was it Luke that said the opposite? Wasn't it?
No, it's I believe it. I don't have it in front of me, but it's Mark and John.
Yes.
John does this thing where what he has is he stresses a theological point and moves the day that he's crucified, because what he wants to do is stress a theological point that during the slaughtering of the lambs for the Passover, what that signifies is Jesus is being crucified during the same time. And so that is signifying that he is the Lamb of God taking away the sins from humanity, right? Which is not the case of what you get in, I believe, Mark. I mean, they're going to look it up and make sure I'm accurate.
Well, I also have another one that's similar.
And I mean, there's that and the birth of Jesus. There's that and the birth of Jesus, but I could get into that. That's more fun because that has to do with history.
You know the Bible. Okay, you guys do know the Bible. You guys are just living in rebellion.
Well, don't say that. I said one thing about the Bible. Don't puff me up yet.
Yeah, well, I think another important one is the resurrection as well, because in one of the Gospels, it says that they went to the tomb and the tomb was wide open and there was an angel inside and the angel came out. And then another one that says the tomb wasn't open yet and there was an earthquake and then it opened. And there's another one that says there was 2 angels, not one. And then there's another one that says that the angel was sitting on the rock, and another one says they were standing next to the people. There's one that says the body of Jesus was inside and then he ascended. Yep. There's another one that says that the body of Jesus wasn't inside, he was already gone. There's another one that says that women saw the body, the empty tomb, and then they went back and told people. There's another one that said that the people were already there. Like the 4 major
one where
Gospels.
They ran away and didn't say anything in Mark.
Yes, so Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John fundamentally disagree with each other on the resurrection.
So you see why it's tough for us when you say you think everything in the Bible is literally true?
That can't, unless there's 4 Jesuses, that doesn't make any sense.
Forrest, can I respond to you? Can I respond?
Sure.
Of course.
Okay. That means you guys do know the Bible. You guys do know the Bible, so you guys are living in rebellion. That's what it tells me. You guys know what the Bible says.
You just went straight back to meta. Stop with the meta. Address the...
What did you say? We're what?
He said we know the Bible, so we're living in rebellion.
Yes.
Is that right? Is that what you waited to say, Jimmy?
Really?
Because I can tell you this right now. If I was still a believer, I would look at you and laugh so fucking hard, because you are the goat that Jesus will cast to the side and say that he never fucking knew you.
Truth.
That's so ridiculous, man. We're genuinely trying. We're here way after the show, man. Like, we're holding the crew and all the audience hostage because we just love doing this. We genuinely are excited about the idea that somebody could call in and say, like, hey, man, look, maybe here's something you guys just didn't see, you know? And yet, here you are just to be like, haha, you atheists suck.
Yeah.
Well, you know what?
It's
Fuck you.
childish, dude.
Yeah.
Childish. Yeah.
Don't even collect a paycheck doing this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
this is volunteer work for us.
It's fun.
I'm taking time off work to be here for free.
I just live in
Okay,
sin,
Forrest.
It's just
Jamie,
you,
Jamie.
Forrest.
You guys are telling people that you guys are over here. Your show telling people there's no God.
Yep.
You guys actually know the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are deceiving people, leading them to hell. Then you guys are.
Well, that's
Stop
okay
it.
because
Hold on,
Oh my
wait. I would love to
fucking
address
God.
that. I would love to address that. We're sending people to hell. Okay, Jimmy, why do people go to hell?
Because they don't believe in God. They sin. They sin willfully.
Okay, so then what? Let's assume, well, this is something that we talked about a couple of times on the show. Let's assume your God is real. What kind of asshole would send somebody to hell just because they don't believe in them?
your God.
That's a
Because
shitty thing.
they have the Bible. They have the Bible. Let me answer the question. They have the Bible. They read the Bible. Instead, they don't want to apply what the Bible says to do. They want to question the Bible. They want to live in rebellion. That's what they want to do.
I do
Right.
want to question the Bible, and I don't want to do what the Bible says to do, like the slavery shit.
The Bible condones slavery.
Yeah,
I
or
don't
like
wanna do that.
raping women or something. Like, I don't want to do that. Yeah, you're right, man. When I look at the Bible and it's like, Lot's daughters decided, hey, it's a great idea to just, I don't know, make our dad drunk and rape him. Yeah, I question that, bro.
Should we get Jamie to get like mauled by or we get I called Jamie
Baldy.
Baldy. Yeah, there we go. I called Jamie Baldy.
He'll send some bears after us, man.
I'll send you bears.
He'll get you.
Should we do that?
Yeah,
yes. Should we just throw a
question that
curse in the
shit.
name of the Lord?
I question.
That's
Maul
the thing,
42
Jimmy,
children.
is that the God of the Bible.
You guys know that.
The God of the
guys
Bible
are
is a
trying to say,
monster,
are you being
Jimmy. I wouldn't
ready?
worship him even if it was real.
Silly.
And what you're telling me here is that we're going to go to hell and we're going to send people to hell. But at the end of the day, what you believe is that there's this guy and he controls the whole universe and he made hell. First of all, what kind of a dick makes hell? That's a horrible thing in the first place. Second of all, he creates the rules for the universe and then makes us so that we will break the rules and then punishes us for breaking the rules that he made us break. That's a dumb, stupid, useless, mean, cruel, ignorant, arrogant, terrible God. And I'm very happy that there's no good reason to believe in it.
Unfortunately, sir, you're wrong. Unfortunately, you're wrong. Number one.
And we're the prideful
what was-
ones.
Let him finish. What are we wrong about?
What's the error?
What are we wrong about?
You're very, very. Like, number one, the Bible says the fool says in his heart there's no God, and the fool says in his heart. The Bible says that the fool says in his heart that there's no
Okay.
God.
My book says the fool says in his heart that there is a God.
Yeah,
Does that mean anything to you?
Yeah, this is it's just inevitably hold on, Jimmy. It's inevitably going to come back. This is it's not going to be progressive because all you're going to do is just inevitably go, some book says a thing. Every time you've done it, you've just assumed the truth of this thing, which we don't accept. You just go back to some book says a fucking thing.
Right.
Why should we accept what the book says? You bring up the fool stuff. Why should we give a shit about that?
If we don't believe your God is real, why would we care what it wants?
Yeah. And it's literally the oldest
Okay,
trick
so
in the
that's-
book.
okay,
The way to make
okay,
your
okay,
group
okay,
believe
okay,
your
okay,
bullshit is
Yep.
to tell them
not-
that everybody that disagrees with you is just an idiot.
Exactly. It's
It's like everybody does that.
It's
man.
boring.
Yeah. It's not special. Like,
Okay,
honestly, I'm
okay,
surprised
okay,
that you aren't
okay.
preaching the word of the Quran because,
Truth.
you're leading people to hell. How could you do this? Like, well, I know, but why not? Because it says in the Quran that a fool believes in the Christian Bible. Because
I know
it's
he's
been
saying that.
corrupted.
Jimmy, you're not listening. He
Yeah,
didn't
you're
say
not
you were a
paying
Muslim. He said why. He was giving a hypothetical, a conditional. If you were a Muslim,
Yes.
you just don't look. This isn't gonna be productive. You don't listen to anything anybody's saying. All you're really worried about
Well,
is
we're just
making
sinning.
some
That's the
meta attack. Here, look. If you discovered a contradiction in your text, would that be enough for you to reassess it? I'm not even saying walk away. It's for you to tone it down a little bit, question it a little bit, or are you just so I don't really give a shit if I'm right or wrong. You don't really care about that. What is it?
Okay, can I answer that question? You asked a very good question.
Answer his question. Yes.
Yes.
I'll
Answer.
go to people. Okay. Let me answer that question. Give me time to answer the question. I'll go to someone that has the authority and ask them to clarify what this contradiction is all about. I will not just dismiss it. I will ask more questions. I'll do my investigations. That's what I'll do.
Sure.
Okay,
And
but
fair.
take a step further, which is what JMike was asking, which is, okay, so you do that, and then you come to a conclusion that is sufficient for you that it is actually a contradiction. Does that make you reassess? Do you step back and go, gosh, I don't know what to do with this. Maybe I'll look even further now that I do agree this is a contradiction?
Yes, I told you. I answered your question. Yes, I will answer.
okay, so hold on. Yes, you said yes, but hold on. I think, I don't know if Elliot's, we're on the same page here, but all I want to do in this is kind of show you the perspective of, because you're sitting like, all you want to do is, blaspheme. All you want to do, you're going to send people to hell, and all you want to do is all this stuff. You add this meta stuff, but I want to try to peel back the curtain and show how people end up deconstructing these beliefs when they find this little thing there, find that little thing there, and I want to see if that's reasonable for you to understand how someone can go, okay, let me go ask somebody about this, which, by the way, your response was, that's perfect. Like, yeah, you should go inquire more about it. Right. But would you see how, like, when you do this more and more and more, you get into, like, New Testament scholarship, and holy shit, all the stuff we have that is, like, more supported that Jesus said if we're going to, bite this bullet that Jesus existed, is going to be apocalyptic stuff that he failed at, right? And do you understand, like, when you get from point A to eventually point D, it becomes a little bit easier to kind of throw the coat off, the Christian coat, and you can kind of just put on a new shirt? And can you understand that it's not just like, I want to sin, I want to do this. It's that this is a progress that takes a while. Nobody pops in the fucking microwave and comes out an atheist. It's like a crock pot. You stew for a fucking long-ass time until you get to that position.
I'd love an atheist.
So it's really just fucking insulting, especially for all the people in the audience or other people who came from these beliefs, to just dismiss this entire fucking process that they went through and just assume that all they want to do is sin. Do you know how many people have probably spent like endless nights just crying, like desperately calling people they don't know, getting on a Discord or a TikTok to talk to people about this? I talk to these people. Not a single one of them is like, I feel like sinning today.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Just really want to piss God off.
Yeah. I feel like sending people to hell today. That's what I want to do.
Can I say a question? What they can do about that is they can go to their pastors, go to their religious leaders.
Why ought they go? Why don't they care about their pastors? What gives the pastor any more look, if I come up with something and I go to a pastor, he's motivated to get me to see it from some other perspective.
Exactly.
If your view is just to go to a pastor, but not, hey, go to a skeptic, go to an atheist, go to a naturalist, go to a Muslim. If you don't have that in there as well, you're biased as fuck.
Yeah, and again, just like JMike was saying,
Jimmy,
shut up, Jimmy. It's frustrating. It's frustrating when you tell us, look, JMike didn't grow up religious, right? Right? You didn't go to
I had
church,
like
right?
some weird spiritual.
Right.
nonsense.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like I definitely did, man. Forrest?
No.
Okay. So I can tell you for a fucking fact, man. I talked with my goddamn pastor. I didn't just wake up one day and go, I don't know, I kind of feel weird about Jesus and the whole magic bread and wine shit. Like, no, dude, I spent fucking years trying really hard. And what I think is so important, man, is the idea that if you genuinely find something that is a contradiction, that is sufficient for you, okay? Because everybody always says, well, what do you need for it to be fuck all that nonsense, man. You've got in your brain a moment, a switch, where if you go, I see this, that definitely is a contradiction. And if in that moment, you're tempted to just go, I'm still gonna find a way to make this work, you really wanna reassess that fucking shit, man. That is absolutely confirmation bias. That is you sitting fully in a space of cognitive dissonance. And I'll just tell you this, it sucks. It really does. It's not super comfortable. But the good news is that is often a glorious opportunity to become incredibly educated on something and have a much better life, man. So, like, take that fucking chance, dude. Stop just living in this space and just being like, yeah, everybody that doesn't agree with me is actually just a dick. Like, I don't know, maybe they are, but it's probably not.
Yeah, we'll bring you back now, Jimmy, and I've got one more question for you, and then we're going to move on. But I want you to respond to what Elliot just said.
What I'm trying to say is that, okay, he said there's a contradiction in the Bible. Like I said, you go to your pastor, you pray about it, and you ask God to reveal it to your heart. Why is there so much contradiction? Number two, you do not just dismiss it wholeheartedly and just go the other way and go back into the world and start sinning again. Because if you sin and you die in your sin, you're going to go straight to hell. So what you do?
You haven't
boring the shit.
Yeah, you haven't spent fucking any fucking time on this,
Jimmy. I just want to ask you, like, just really. I have two very quick questions, and I really appreciate if you could answer them succinctly instead of just preaching at us. Like, just seriously, question number one is, if we don't believe that the Bible is real and we don't believe your God is real, why do you think that threats of hell are going to scare us? If we don't think hell is real and we don't think it is real, why not approach us with, like, evidence and a good reason to believe in your God?
No, because that's a very good question. That's a very excellent question.
Thank you.
From a guy that
like, for example, you guys don't believe hell is real.
Yeah.
But the Bible says it's appointed unto man wants to die. After that is judgment. So I just care about you. I love you. That's why I call this show from time to time.
Okay.
Get you guys to see that.
I'm getting a lot of
Jimmy,
mixed signals from you, Jimmy.
So Jimmy, then why don't you address what JMike brought up earlier? Other holy books, like the Quran, for example, clearly talks about their hell, and they say the exact same thing that the Bible says. You got to believe this or you go to hell. Why aren't you afraid of the Muslim hell, the Hindu hell, or any of the other thousands of hell on offer?
Okay, you asked a good question. I'm not Muslim. I'm not Hindu. I'm a Christian. That's
Right.
We've understood that the entire time.
But
you're not understanding what we're saying.
But why aren't you afraid of their hells? Why aren't you afraid of going to hell the way that the Quran says you?
I told you I'm not a Muslim.
We fucking know that you're not a Muslim.
So Jimmy, Jimmy,
watch this back.
I promise you, there is no doubt in our mind that you are a Christian. We've known it the whole time. Jimmy, there are over 40,000 denominations of Christianity, many of which are incompatible with each other. Why aren't you afraid of the hells of the other 39,999 flavors of Christianity that think that you're doing Christianity wrong and you're going to go to hell? Why aren't you afraid of the other Christian hells?
Because I've never heard about the other Christian hell. I just know about one Christian. I don't know about 39 different. I don't know about 40 different thousand Christianities out there. I just know about one Christianity.
Right.
I don't know about the other 40,000 Christianities.
I only know the one I digested.
Right.
And
so
on.
Jimmy, all you're saying is, I believe this, therefore I believe this. And I'm trying to get across to you the same reason that you aren't worried about the Muslim hell, the same reason that you're not worried about the Hindu hell, the same reason you're not worried about the 39,999 other Christian hells is the same reason that I'm not worried about your hell. I don't think it's real. I'm not bought in. And you're sitting here saying, yeah.
You guys don't believe it.
And what you're telling me over and over is, yeah, I get that. But I do believe it. And that's not an argument. If I sit here and tell you that I think Bigfoot's real and you say I don't believe you, I can't just say, yeah, but I do, motherfucker, so you better fucking act right. Yeah. Otherwise, Bigfoot's coming for you. It doesn't work that way, right? So you've got to just understand that calling in here to yell at us and tell us we're going to hell and that we're sinning and all these things doesn't make a damn bit of difference unless you can convince us that this God is real and worth worshiping. And I don't think either of those are true. I don't think your God is real, and if he is, he's a dick. I don't want anything to do with him. Do you understand that, Jimmy?
And me and Elliot are just going to get a beer and laugh about those comments later.
Can I ask you one question?
Okay, I want you to answer my question first. Do you understand that I don't think your God is real, and if he is real, I don't like him, and you need to prove to me that God is real and worth worshiping before I give half a shit about what your hell is and what your book says. Do you understand that?
I do understand that. Can you answer my question?
Yes.
Okay, what do you believe happens to us when we die then? What do you guys believe
Who the fuck knows?
To us when we die?
I rot unless I'm cremated. I don't think that there's any such thing as a soul. I don't think there's any such thing as life after death. I don't think there's anything like heaven or anything like. I think that my brain stops working, my mind disappears, my body rots in the ground, and it's done. I think I have
sure
this.
About that? You're sure
yeah,
about
that's everything that I know for sure happens. Everything else is religious speculation. I have no evidence of a soul. I have no evidence of an afterlife. I have no evidence of any kind of a mind persisting after the body is decomposed. All I know for sure is that bodies rot after they're dead and that they don't get back up again and that minds are attached to brains. Those are the things that I'm damn positive on.
And you can't have those minds without like third generation stars, for example. Which
Precisely.
Like prior to that, there's no mentality. Why would we think that process would not be equally as finite?
So the
as
issue
something
is
like a protoplanetary disk.
And so as far as I'm concerned, average human lifespan in this country is maybe 80 years if you're lucky. I just turned 32 this last month. I've used up almost half the time I have. And I've spent half of that just learning how to like walk and eat and be a person and shit. So I've got a very, very small amount of time on this planet and then I'm done and I don't think I go anywhere. Complete annihilation awaits my entire personality. And I am choosing to dedicate this precious moment in the sun to trying to make people's lives better. Because shows like this, I think, do real good. Because religions like yours, I think, are deeply harmful to both individuals and societies. I don't think that anything's going to happen to me after I die. I'm here because I fucking love you, Jimmy. And my love doesn't include a magical theme park in the sky if I'm good enough.
Yeah. And I think exactly what Forrest just said about the harm is on display right here, Jimmy.
Yes.
Hang on, Jimmy.
Yes, it is.
Jimmy, what's on display is that harm Forrest was talking about, because what's happening, and I'm just seeing it just now as you're responding, you're saying, what happens after you die, after all of this back and forth conversation, and you just revert to something like that? Man, that is an illness.
That is fear.
That is, you were given this fear and fucking virus, man. They gave it to you. They infected your ass, man. I'm telling you, and it is just eating you alive right now. And here I'm here to tell you, there is a cure, baby. It's critical thinking and skepticism. You can get to the other side. You don't have to live in this shit existence anymore, man.
Yeah, dude.
Like, don't worry about it. The water is so much better over here. Don't be worried about any of the health.
Better.
They do. And you do get better looking. It is a thing. It's like once you stop
I
believing
saw it at
in
the
God,
beginning
it's
that people
legitimately
who come
true.
to our show are 40%, 14% more
cannot
handsome.
disprove it.
I think all
It's
three
true.
of us, like, we wouldn't even have a relationship if we were still atheists, right?
Right.
How
Yeah.
it works now.
No, okay. Do we have anything else for
No,
for Jimmy,
Jimmy,
guys?
I'm all cashed out.
Jimmy, man, I you know what I hope? I hope that you call me again sometime and just talk to me a little bit about what you're believing, because at the end of the day, I think what you're spewing here comes from a place of fear. And I think I believe you when you say that you care about me, and I believe you when you say you care about other people. I think that you've been scared by a boogeyman for a little bit too long, and I want to help disabuse you of the notion that anything bad's going to happen to me and then I die. And I also want to disabuse you of the notion that anything that would punish people with conscious torture and fire for all eternity for the sin of not stroking his ego enough is not something worth worshiping.
Yeah.
With that, Jimmy, we're going to let you go. We've been on the phone for like 20 minutes. You've been yelling at us a whole bunch. We're going to move on. Goodbye, Jimmy.
And that wasn't flicking you off, Jimmy. That was the hypothetical Voldemort type character.
Yeah. We've got 2 calls left, and lines are closed. So we're going to get through these last 2. I'm going to save this one for last.
I was
think
going to
it's
say
real
we
neat.
should do Billy, because I have like one thing to say about this, and
Yep.
it's just clearing up a common misunderstanding. But
Billy is, I'm guessing that's a deist, calling in from Tiny Xylophones. His pronouns he, him, has an argument for the supernatural via the observer effect, and Billy has been waiting for 2 goddamn hours to talk to us about this.
Yeah.
So let's hang up on him immediately. Billy, you were on AXP. Thank you for waiting so long. What do you got for us today?
It's okay. I got pizza too. So.
Oh, good. Good.
Is there pineapple on it, Billy?
No.
Okay.
Never be pineapple.
Coward.
Coward. All right, what you got?
does the pineapple collapse the wave function, which is what we're about to start talking about?
Hey, dude, that's I've not observed any pineapple on my pizza.
Oh my God.
So no observer.
Can I ask you guys a real quick question first?
Sure.
Like,
Sure.
what if, because I was listening to the last call, and like, what if God, like, he just appears in front of you, and you guys are like, holy shit, dude, you're not going to make us worship you, are you? And he's like, why the hell why would I do that? And you guys are like, well, because the Bible. And he's like, dude, everything in that book is horse shit. Like, why are you guys listening to that?
Yeah, I mean, it probably accept that the thing is real, you know.
Well, I don't know. The first thing I would do is check the water supply to see if
right.
I mean, acid in it, but-
right. Once we've determined we're not tripping balls,
If we can assume that absolutely no question this actually is for real God, who's like the Bible's all wrong, I still have several questions, and he still has a lot to answer for. Yeah. So, like, are we assuming that this God, you're calling in as a deist, so I'm assuming the answer to this is no, but are we assuming this God is actually all-knowing, all-powerful, cares about human affairs and all those things?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's all-knowing or all-powerful.
Well, that'll matter for me for our answers, because we'll give you a straightforward, like, no, that thing can't exist.
Yeah, no, if there's a God that is all-knowing and all-powerful, then it is certainly not all good, and I would still have a big issue with it.
Let's just say that he's able to, or whatever he, I guess, is able to prove to you guys sufficiently that it is it is a powerful God.
It's always a man. It's always a man.
And
always a man.
It's always got
I don't know why it's always a
pronouns.
man, but it's always a man.
Always got
should be a
human pronouns.
cat. It should be like
I try to switch it up.
Like,
I use she, I use they, I use it. I try to mix it up a little bit just to see.
The reason I'm getting
powerful
at this,
scissors.
the reason I'm getting at this is it because the Bible sucks and makes God out to be like a piece of shit? Is that like really kind of why you guys?
No.
No. I mean, that's stuff that's fun to talk about.
Sprinkles on the shit.
Yeah, right.
We don't do an appeal to emotion to get to the conclusion. It's just like we can, like, after we've like become pretty confident that the proposition of the probability of that proposition is pretty unlikely. It doesn't.
Right.
We can just add more shit on top of that.
Right. The evidence for this proposition is unfounded. And also, it's kind of fucking dumb, and that's fun to make fun of it.
And
I do it with astrology.
And if we want to throw the emotion back on top, we can even say, like, put the Bible aside, please. The whole, just any God that would run a universe like this is a lunatic. And so, like, I'm not, even if we didn't have the Bronze Age sex manual backing them up, that what we're living in right now is sufficient evidence to say that if there is a God, I don't like him.
We'd all be walking away, like, making fun of the dude as we walked away. Like,
we'd be
loser.
Thumbing our nose at God. Also, we'd be doing all sorts of childish shit. And then we go to hell.
What if he's like, I didn't
eternity without that guy?
Like, I didn't make all that stuff. Or he's like, I didn't make suffering happen. It's
Okay,
these are all like,
in fairness.
But is he powerful enough to fix it though?
Yeah,
Because like, I didn't make a lot of shit happen, but I'm trying to make it better.
Yeah,
you know?
and in fairness, Billy, we can just keep rolling this fucking hypothetical ball as many miles as we want. Let's not.
Yeah,
we can really boil it down.
Yeah.
If you just go to the old the Epicurus little trifecta, like when you deal with the problem of evil or just suffering in general or the world, the way anything it is, just say evil as a kind of a catch-all phrase. If God is able to stop evil but not willing, then he himself is evil. If he's willing to stop it but not able, then he's impotent. He's useless. If he's both willing and able, then this universe shouldn't exist. And if he's neither willing nor able, then why the hell do you call him God? Yeah. So if this guy's going to show up and he's going to be like, yo, I'm not responsible for this, but I sure am here, I'm going to tell him to get out of my fucking way because I'm on the way to the library. And it's like that's going to be it.
Deism just seems intuitively so false to me because of this, like, it seems so obviously stemmed from humans where it's like, I want to believe in this thing, but I want to strip away as much of this traditional stuff out of it and just have him like this like cosmic peeping Tom God. It's like, I've absolved myself from a lot of the critiques I can have, but it's like the most inert shit ever. It's like, it has this desire and reason to create, but then it's like, nah, I don't really care, do your thing. It just seems so like clearly primate driven to me.
But what if life is supposed to be a challenge? Like, because
why?
You would think that
why would it be? Why is it supposed to be a challenge?
Why does that matter?
Like, okay, fine, we can do the hypothetical game, but this is where we're gonna get to, man. Right. We're gonna get to why is it a challenge, and ultimately it's gonna get to a place where it's like, well, because we want to know what the fucking answer will be after the fucking test, right? But that doesn't make sense if you have this thing that already knows everything and is all capable and shit. It just collapses.
Challenges make you stronger.
No, I agree, but
I want to get to.
yeah, I was going to say you have the observer thing.
Yeah, let's do
let
the
him
observer
finish
effect.
his thing. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Do you guys agree that 95% of the universe is we can't directly observe 95% of the universe?
Yes.
Right, because it's made of a material that's not detectable.
Dark matter and or dark energy.
Matter,
Seems
dark energy.
right.
Yeah.
That stuff's not detectable.
Sure.
Would you say that it's pretty supernatural for a cat to be both alive and dead at the same time, right?
No.
No, that's just
That was like, from my understanding, that's like an a priori objection to like a certain interpretation to say that
it was
look,
just kind of like a thought experiment.
it's like the idea is it's like this a priori consideration of like, well, look, you get this contradiction on this type of interpretation, and classical logic's true, and you can't have proposition in conjunction with its negation, so it must be false. There's people that take it in that route, but that's not the supernatural stuff. Like, or that's not the thing that's like interesting in this case. But it says something about the observer effect. Will you talk about that? That's what I want to get to.
What are you saying?
Right. Well, things exist in every possible state until an intelligent observation or measurement is made of it.
Okay.
Right. So
yeah, I don't.
Well, hold on. Let's let him go. Let's let him finish.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Right. So things exist in every possible state, right, until an intelligent observation made of it. And so 95% of the universe is not observable. So therefore, you cannot collapse the wave function on 95% of.
When you say observe, do you reference? Are you saying conscious agent observing, or are you talking about macroscopic objects? Because if you just look really quickly on the observer effect, there's like blurbs on this that what is like you pull up the Wikipedia, it'll say exactly what I'm about to say to you. I promise, because I've looked at this. A common misunderstanding on the observer effect is that conscious agents collapse the wave function. Right. What's really happening is we're talking about like macroscopic objects that are interacting. Right? There's like some type of interaction. It has nothing to do with intentional states like beliefs and desires or anything like that, because you have like just dispositional type of macroscopic objects that have no intentional states that are causing this. The observer effect is like, this has been, I think it's like the 40s or 50s or something, that this has like been misunderstood and squashed. And I've had like on my own thing that I do sometimes with a buddy of mine, his brother's a quantum physics educator at a university my brother went to, and like he like cringes every time people bring this up. So I can't take serious at all this argument that fundamentally misunderstands the observer effect as dealing with mental items as opposed to like a macroscopic object.
Of course, the introduction of the observer must not be misunderstood to imply some sort of subjective features that are brought to the description of nature. Yep. The observer has, rather, only the function of registering decisions, i.e. processes in space and time. It does not matter whether the observer is an apparatus or a human being, but the registration, i.e. the transition from the possible to the actual, is absolutely necessary here and cannot be omitted from the interpretation of quantum theory. That's by Heisenberg himself. So like just saying, well, there's some stuff we can't observe and all this, it doesn't matter. Something can interact with it. Something can observe it. Dark matter is part of the reason why galaxies are held together in the shape they are. Something's interacting with it, and it doesn't have to be a human mind doing the observation. So that's just not how that works.
Well, it's not that we can't observe it. We can't even detect it with even the most powerful system ever.
We can't, but something is interacting with it. And so, like, as Heisenberg said, we don't have to have a conscious agent messing with this thing. Anything can observe it. And observation means different. It doesn't just mean looking at it, It means noting the effects, Also, nobody up here is a physicist.
Yeah, so I was just literally about to say, I am not a physicist, but assuming that this is true, like, and we're accurately, representing, which I've talked with physicists about this, and they've given me kind of the green light, but we still should inquire, right? We should be proper skeptics about this. Given all that, do you agree that, like, if this is true, that this is an undercutting or rebutting defeater for your argument, and therefore it just, like, doesn't go through, right? It's just, the premise is clearly false.
Yeah. Well, I understand that it doesn't have to be a conscious observer. Like,
no, I'm asking you a specific question. If I formalize this in propositional logic, and we put these premises down, we gave an inferential structure that guarantees the truth of the conclusion once these premises are accepted to be true. If one of your premises has an undercutting or rebutting defeater that shows that it's false, then your conclusion cannot be, well, it could be true, but for different reasons, right?
But wouldn't my argument have to be in syllogistic format in order?
You don't. I'm okay with naturalist. I'm okay with natural language. I'm just saying if we took a proper care of this argument, we wanted to make sure it
you're basically saying, Billy, because of X and because of Y, we get to Z. And what Mike is saying is, yeah, but if we go back to X and can totally demonstrate it's not true, and you need both X and Y to get to Z,
you need a new argument for Z.
You don't massive.
Well, they want to do before third generation star stuff. Like there's this ultimate fundamental mind that's collapsing. They want to go there, but it's just a fundamental misunderstanding. Yeah.
Wouldn't it just be?
Would you agree? Would you agree that it's not natural for matter to be undetectable?
No.
If I was undetectable, if I was undetectable, would I be supernatural?
No. It's like to say that in and of itself, that phrase of
was the Higgs boson supernatural?
That's what I'm saying. There's lots of shit that's been undetectable for a long time. Right. It's certainly not supernatural. We just covered dark matter and dark energy, which are called dark because that's literally the filler word for we don't fucking know what this is. It doesn't interact with any light whatsoever, but clearly it's doing a thing, and we don't know what's going on there, and we have nothing that can interact with it in any meaningful way, but it is clearly having a serious effect on the universe, and it's also 95% of the shit that we're living in or whatever.
Exactly.
So that doesn't mean it's supernatural.
There's a lot of room.
It just means that it's something we don't understand yet. And something we don't understand yet is not magic. You're doing the classic, just like, I don't know what this is, therefore it must be magical. And you're not going to like that when you then find out the actual naturalistic explanation for that thing.
Don't stop the progress of learning by arbitrarily
deciding
a conclusion. Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah,
but
don't do that.
That's assuming that it's possible to learn about it in the future.
No, it isn't.
I mean,
it isn't. It's not assuming that at all. All we're saying is we're in the boat of going, hey, man, yeah, there might be some confusing stuff we're not super sure about yet. And that's it. That's the fucking boat, man. And you're going, oh, well, it could be this. It could be. It's possible. And what we're saying is you've got no reason to accept that it could be magic yet.
It just seems like incredulity if you're
it is incredulity.
Therefore it's why.
Right. It sounds so wild and crazy.
But we find components that do defy the fundamental laws in that space.
So you know what that means? It means we reevaluate the laws, y'all.
There you go.
That's the thing about science is that science is not some big book that we go pull down and look at and then we learn about the universe. Science is just the process of people looking at nature, finding patterns and drawing boxes around those patterns. That doesn't mean the boxes are real, and it doesn't even mean that the patterns are real. It's just all we're doing to try to identify stuff. Lots of theories and lots of laws have been changed and disproven and reevaluated and reworked over time. So if we find something new in physics that changes what we thought we knew, then we change what we know.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's weird because it seems before Darwin, selection for some phenotypic advantage or something was supernatural or something, and then now it's there's this phenotypic trait moves the fixation in this population. It's well, before we discovered that was some supernatural selection for stuff or something. I don't really understand. It just seems you could just be Elliot said, the boat is there's just more work to be done. It's not presupposing some other thing.
Right.
We might actually be able to show in principle that this thing couldn't be achieved.
And all we're ever doing when we do discover these things, when we do finally get some beautiful set of bullet points that helps us explain, it is not saying, oh, well, fuck that. We know everything there is to know about sharks, you guys. Let's just close the book. We did it. We got it. No, all we're simply saying is, oh my gosh, we have all of this information that leads us to these conclusions here. And it's wow, that's so cool. I mean, right now, again, what Forrest was talking about earlier, how basically all sharks just have teeth all over their fucking body. That's crazy. You know what, though? Tomorrow we could find out that actually that protein is part of something else that, eventually turns into blah, blah. And it's not actually all teeth. It's actually all toenails. That could be the fucking case, man. But we're not there yet.
Yeah.
And doing that, jumping to that conclusion arbitrarily, it hinders us from actually figuring this stuff out. So
I just want to point out before you called, I actually wrote down and circled, the mind does not collapse the wave function. And then I put an arrow and said,
You guys-
macroscopic instruments.
You guys have
I
been
talk about a lot of people,
prophesizing
and I don't know
tonight.
anything about this, but the one thing I know is that this is like a fundamental misunderstanding of quantum mechanics.
Yeah. Anyway, Billy, I'm gonna let you respond. You got 3 people talking at you, so I'll let you respond, and then we'll move on.
So, so the large. Well, how about the large quasar group? That's supernatural. It's always been supernatural.
No,
What, did you just drop? Did you just drop the other thing?
It's always been supernatural.
Yeah, did you just drop the other thing and now we're on to this? Like,
Billy,
come on.
What I can't stress this enough.
Well, you guys said that,
Billy,
you guys said that once something is found.
No.
Wait. You guys said that once some. Wait, can I?
Yeah, please go ahead.
You guys said that once something is found, we just simply change physics to make it where it's not supernatural anymore. They haven't done that.
Don't
with
change
not
physics
what
to
we're
make
doing.
That's not what I said. That is not at all what I said.
Forrest changes the physics to make it non-supernatural.
What I said was when we encounter new evidence that contradicts our model, then we need to change our model to account for that new evidence. That what you're talking about is not supernatural. It may be incredible, it may be largely unexplained, but weird doesn't equal magic. And so all we're saying is, okay, there's a lot of shit out there that is difficult to explain, that doesn't seem to work with the physics that we have. Anything below the Planck time or the Planck length, that's shit that physics breaks and we can't do anymore. I'm clearly a biologist. All the physicists watching are
No,
like,
you said it right.
Idiot, you could do this better. But the point is, like, we adjust to new evidence. That's not cheating. That's the reason you're able to call us on the internet right now, because we thought we knew some stuff, we learned new things, and we changed our model.
That just seems like you're unwilling. Wait, that just seems like you're unwilling to ever accept the possibility that something might.
I find it adorable that you're charging incredulity on Forrest's part this entire time.
I also find it frustrating that you're telling me, well, you're just unwilling to accept something supernatural, when so far your argument has been, I don't know what this is, it's therefore magic.
I'm unwilling to accept it's
you're
natural.
unwilling to accept that there's a naturalist explanation, even if we don't have it yet.
Billy, literally, Billy, 5 seconds ago, dude, you literally were like, this quasar thing, that was supernatural. Like, you just like asserted it. Like, it wasn't like you cared about, like, here are the reasons that might lead you to think this thing. You were just like, fuck that, man. Fuck this. It's supernatural. Well, how is that supposed to convince anybody? And then you want to sit here and go, he's unwilling. You weren't even fucking willing to give reasons for why you think X is supernatural. You were just willing to fucking assert it. Don't charge my co-host with incredulity when you have been the most incredulous person I've talked to so far.
Shit, man, you guys are fucking.
Yeah, get mad.
Jesus Christ. See, now you're muted, man. Look, Billy, call us back another day. I know it gets frustrating sometimes when you have spent, all of maybe 5-6 full seconds thinking about something, and then somebody pushes back on it. 12 seconds. I apologize. I'm not trying to be a dick. Honestly, Billy.
I said he needs 12 seconds.
He needs 12
It might help.
Look, seriously, Billy, think a little bit more on this. Rewatch this, okay? I know a lot of times when you're doing this live, especially when it is sometimes the first time you've presented something to other people, like it can be difficult. But man, what I want you to see when you go back and you watch, I want you to see how like tentative we are when we say certain things, like, hey man, we're not really sure about that, but it doesn't seem to be the case, And then I want you to see that moment where you just go out of nowhere, yeah, well, this quasar is fucking supernatural.
And everybody knows it.
And everybody, it's always been like that.
Yeah.
I just want you to look at the contrast between that, man, because I think that's an important
Fuck me for showing you something wrong about your argument, and then you just being like, oh, this is supernatural.
I think, Billy, you should take a page out of Jimmy's book, and when you have questions about this, go find your local physicist and ask them some questions and pray about it, and then they will guide you on the right path.
Might happen.
Billy, with that, we're going to move on because this is clearly like wholly unproductive, and holy crap, we've been here for a long time.
Yeah. I just want to acknowledge that, like, we gave him something where his argument just no longer goes through, and he's just like still like wants to, just wants to insist on that, and then charged with unwillingness. Like, dude, I'm giving you something you can look yourself.
Yeah.
And if you can't accept that, then I mean, the incredulity is strong with you, my son.
Yeah.
Well, you're just not willing to accept it's non-natural.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
The
It's
fallacy of the day is personal incredulity.
Yeah.
It's time for the last call of the show, ladies and gentlemen. It's the very end. Don't cheer that you're happy that it's over.
You still don't get to leave.
Fuck you.
What are you talking about? Fucking.
You got to be nice to the audience.
No, we don't.
Wait, have they donated yet?
That's a good question.
Okay, we love you guys.
Until-
At any point you want to bounce, y'all just, hey, pictures and whatever.
Exit to the gift shop.
After that, we can yell at them.
We've got the last call of the day. It's going to be Mike, different Mike, pronouns he, him, calling in from Scrawny Crawdads, who says God didn't create a lousy world, probably talking about the fact that we're talking about how crappy the world is and that God made it and all these things. Mike, you are our final call of the day. How are you doing today?
Hey, good gentlemen. Thanks for having me. Last call.
Thank you for waiting for so long.
I'm from Charleston. Yeah, thanks. No pizza on this side.
I'm staring at my slices, getting hungry.
I'm dying. Yeah. So what's going on? What do you said?
Right.
God didn't create a lousy world. What is there something specific that we said that you're grumping about, or is there something you want to present to us? Like, what are you saying?
It's an ongoing grump. I've called in several times, and whenever I bring it up, last time I spoke was with was it Johnny Angel?
Okay.
Is his name sarcastic? Is he not an angel?
Oh,
I don't know
that's
what's
his
going
name.
on there.
He is very sarcastic.
He is
That's-
sarcastic.
Yeah, he's
That
a
is his name.
snarky puppy.
So,
He's got a little Bill Maher thing going on.
Sure,
It's very
whatever.
convincing. Whether
But it
factual or
works
not,
'cause he's
question it,
gorgeous.
But anyway.
Only his dog, actually. I don't care
Anyway,
about it.
go on.
he told a very sad story. He knew friends of his that he goes, well, kind of a god, in the Johnny Angel voice, kind of a god does a world where a kid dies of cancer and less than 2 years old. Absolutely tragic
Happens all the
story.
time.
And I answered him, and it just didn't even register. And then he just kept going on and on.
Well, what's your answer?
Yeah, what was the answer?
What was your answer?
Maybe it was a bad answer.
All three of us had the same exact.
Maybe. I think it's an answer you don't want to hear. Maybe you heard it before and he just doesn't agree with it. But you say this is a shit show and the world is bad, and the answer is it is because we're in charge. We're running around with free will, and we're in charge.
That's a bad answer.
Yeah, that's a bad answer.
We have a lot to say about this.
So look, just really quickly, why is that? This sounds like the whole fallen world thing. Is that where you're going with this? Is that we have free will and we're sinful in the fallen world because of the whole garden?
I'm not
situation?
going there. I'm there.
Okay, cool. So then, just really quickly, that's fine.
Yeah.
Just really quickly, who made the garden, the Garden of Eden?
God did.
Okay, and who is and who is in charge of like where the various trees were placed?
God was.
Right. And so, who put the humans right next to the tree of good and knowledge, good and evil, and told them not to touch it?
Well, we don't know if it was right next to him, and actually it doesn't matter. But
They were in the same thing, yeah. So like, and also, who allowed the serpent to quote tempt Eve, even though it wasn't really a temptation? Who allowed that situation to happen?
God did.
Who told the first lie in the universe?
Satan.
God did.
The serpent.
God did.
God did. Because God said, if you eat from this tree, you will surely die in the very same day. And the serpent said, no, you won't. Serpent also wasn't Satan. It never says the serpent was Satan. The serpent just said, you won't die if you eat from this tree. That's literally all he says. So God says, you will surely die on the very same day that you eat from this tree. And the serpent says, no, you won't. And so they try it. Now, here's another question that's not going to end with the words God did. Do you have any children, Mike?
Yeah.
What's like like little kids, like babies, right? Little toddlers toddling about. What's like the best fucking way to get them to do something? It's to put the thing in front of them and tell them not to do it, right?
Well, no, I mean, that's funny, but that's Yeah, maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
sure.
Put him in front of a nuke button.
Exactly. And also, did Adam and Eve understand what wrong was before they ate from that tree?
Well, now that's interesting because it's the knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah.
And yet
they didn't have it.
They didn't have it.
Yeah, what explains their misperception?
Yeah. So what you've got here is a situation where you have two people who were literally born yesterday, who do not know what it means to do right or wrong. They literally don't have the knowledge of good and evil. And God puts them right next to the thing that will give them that knowledge.
Don't you do
it. Tells them not to touch the thing that is in front of them. He could have put it in another fucking garden. But he
could have
puts
just
it
made a bush of good and like a tree of good.
He could have done anything. He could have done a million other things. And then God, knowing full well what is going to happen because he is omnipotent. God knows the future. God knows the past, the present, the whole 9 yards. God knows exactly what they are going to do. God allows them to do the thing that he doesn't want them to do, that they do not know is wrong, and then punishes them for doing what is wrong. Not only them, but punishes their children and their children's children and all other people, especially women who now have painful childbirth and must be subjected to men. It must be subservient to men. That is the God that you're offering us here.
Oh, and your alternative is to say that two naked people tripped him up on his way to creating the universe.
Right.
So either way, it's a lousy world.
Either your God is an idiot or he's just he's an asshole. Like, there's no way around it that if this God is all-knowing, he made a terrible decision. He knew what was going to go wrong with this decision. He's punishing other people for his terrible decision. And now we skip forward today in the year of our Lord 2024, and we've got 25,000 people starving to death every single day, 10,000 of them children. We have rampant child cancer. We have all sorts of problems with disease and with rape and with murder and with genocide. And you're sitting here saying, yeah, but those two people that literally could not have known any better 2,000 years ago shouldn't have done the thing that they didn't know was wrong. And I'm telling you, even if the garden story made even an iota of sense, which it super fucking doesn't, even if it did, it still would be wholly inappropriate and completely evil for God to punish people thousands of years later because a couple of fucking hippies ate an apple. That doesn't make any sense, dude. No matter how you slice it, your God is responsible for this situation, and he should be held accountable for it, which is a really good reason that why he doesn't.
Mike, what's your response?
Well, first of all, calling them a couple of hippies from Forrest who was wearing a hairpiece a while ago, that's rich.
I used to have that kind of hair, too. I used to have hair all the way down my back.
Yeah, Mike. What?
Anyway.
Yeah. What's your response? Because I'm curious.
My real response is, if that's it, if this is where we're at and this is the world, you're right. This is a crappy thing. If that's where the story ends, it doesn't end there. But if that's where it ends, and I don't agree that they didn't entirely know. I think they had free will, but they didn't have knowledge. And I don't know about this.
What explains how they could misperceive?
Free will, apparently. So.
Yeah, but look, what explains how they could misperceive? Right. They don't have any knowledge of good or evil.
Well, they were.
So what explains, right? If not culpability on God's part, right? Coercion. Mm-hmm. If not that, what explains it? It doesn't seem like you have very many options to do, right? And then, regardless of that, I want you to answer that, but think about it this way. It seems like you're on board with what Forrest is saying. Imagine I committed some horrible crime, okay? And Forrest just goes, hey, let's say I did something terrible. I killed a bunch of innocent people, little children, and did all these horrible things, right? Make it as crazy as possible. Forrest just goes, hey, I will take his sentence for him, right? Give me the sentence. It's fine, right? I will take that. I will take the burden. Do you think that that's justice? Do you think that any justice has been done, that I get to walk away and that he's going to take on my burden? What do you think? That was a weird noise outside.
Well, it all depends what kind of a court you got going, but it's like a penalty, a fine for money, and
I'm just asking if you think. I'm just asking if you think if that's justice. That's all I'm asking. If you think that.
Yeah, I mean, if it's just we're just talking money, keep it simple.
No. I killed I killed little children, and he is gonna take the sentence for me. Is that justice?
Is that justice?
And then you're going to try and relate that to Jesus.
Don't worry about what I'm going to relate it to.
Just answer the question, man. It doesn't matter.
Woo!
It's just if you accept this proposition, you might not accept another one.
Case by case.
No, I'm asking you about this case. I'm asking you about this case right now. I just went outside. I grabbed Greg, our producer. I stabbed him. Okay, and then I went and I stabbed everybody else in the crew, right? And then Elliot.
Elliot just wanted to be.
You can be part of it.
Wanted to be murdered.
That could happen later. You be careful. I am rooming with you.
Depends on how you play your
sleep
cards.
right next to me.
I do owe you a round of beer, so.
Do you think that that was justice for me to not have any punishment at all?
Right.
And someone else take it for me? It's just a yes or a no.
It presupposes that between two humans, between a human and a God, God gets to play God.
Stop. I didn't say anything about God. Stop.
It's so boring.
Stop.
How dishonest you're being right now.
Mike, seriously, I'm asking you, stop adding anything else. Don't worry about God. Don't worry about Jesus. Don't worry about the fucking juju up the mountain. I don't give a shit about any of that right now. It will matter in a minute. Probably will, right? You see what's coming. But just be honest with me. Is it justice? Yes or no?
I'll answer you. If it's between two people, I don't think that's justice.
Okay, great. Awesome. So what's the asymmetry? And all of these people in front of me who never lived back then, now having to take on and do what Forrest is doing by, they are not even volunteering. Mm-hmm. They didn't even sign up for life, but they have to now take a sentence for somebody else that someone else did.
Yep.
Show me the asymmetry between those cases. And don't special plead about some, infinite mind bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, it's much more than that. It's not just that it's being carried down, which I don't understand, but everybody is doing what God didn't intend you to do, even from an early age. And there's an age of accountability. As a 2-year-old, no, probably not. But
it wasn't about that.
It's doing against God's will and sinning and separating themselves all the time. And they started.
That's not what he asked.
But everybody's doing it.
I'm asking you what the asymmetry between the cases are.
Yeah.
That's not what he asked. Answer his actual question.
Go ahead.
What is the asymmetry between those cases? How is it different? In virtue of what is the case where Forrest takes that sentence for me any different than the case of humanity right now, according to your view?
Okay. I think I already answered that.
No, you didn't. You didn't answer that. What's the difference? Because by the way, they didn't exist then. They just were born into this thing, right? What's the difference?
You're going to have to repeat the question. I don't understand.
Mike, you seriously can't understand. Forrest takes my sentence. We can even make it a little bit more analogous that he's forced to. Someone comes up to him and just goes, "You're taking Mike's sentence. He did this thing," and then he's thrown in jail, and I get to go free. You agree with me that that's not justice, right? We've gotten that off the table. I'm asking you what the asymmetry is for the entire audience in front of me being born into a world, myself included, being born in your view in the world where they have to take the sentence of some McRib guy, McRib woman, right? I don't understand what the asymmetry is. You can help me out in virtue of what there is some difference.
How is it, just in plain terms, how is it justice then that we must bear the sentence for Eve's sin?
Exactly.
Well, you're going to bear the justice for your sin.
That's not.
Oh my God,
that's
Mike.
not what.
Just focus on this
Mike.
piece.
I'm mildly getting frustrated now. I'm just gonna go hang out with some really fucking cool people if you don't answer this question again. Because I'm giving you my time. I've given a lot of people time. I don't have to fucking give you any more of my fucking time. I can go give people who are actually gonna probably listen and respond to what I'm saying. Why the fuck am I gonna spend the time with you when I'm just now being insulting to them? So answer my fucking question or we're done.
I think I already answered it. I don't understand the original sin theory. I don't understand it. Don't.
Okay.
I don't understand.
Okay. But it sounds like you're saying that particular case of original sin compared to the story that JMike was just talking about where Forrest is forced to take the punishment, it sounds like what you're saying is neither of them are just. Mm-hmm. It is not justice in either of these scenarios. And honestly, man, that's kind of where we're at. Yeah. And if what you're telling me is that's the world that your God created, just to get back to the fucking point, Man, that's lousy.
Yeah.
That's a lousy fucking world.
Thank you for getting to the point.
That's it, man. It sucks. Like, your God did that. He chose to make this shit world, apparently, where even you were like, I don't get it, man. It doesn't seem right. So, I don't know, Mike.
Well, no, we're all responsible for our own sins, and it started there.
Are we, though?
Except for the fucking point I'm making.
So I want to try one more thing that's a little bit just off, because it's very clear that this isn't going to go anywhere further on this particular thing. I just have one other question for you, Mike. It's something you said stuck firmly into my craw. You said that, yeah, this is a bad, lousy world if this is all there is, but this isn't all there is. It's still going somewhere, and it sounds like what you're drawing into there is like Revelation and the rapture and all that, and this is all part of God's plan. Is that what you're saying? Is that all the terror and horror and pain and suffering that we see in the world is all acceptable because it's all part of God's plan?
It's not part of God's plan. It's our free will. And yeah, to answer your question,
that's part
we're
of the
running the
grand
show.
plan.
It was perfect. It's not perfect now, but it will be. If this was heaven,
so then it's all things
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Let him just. I'm going to hold you to the fire here, Mike.
That's all.
I just want to distinguish.
Oh, man.
I get that you believe in free will, which doesn't matter because lots of, like, Satan has free will and still rejects God, and also God violates free will in the Bible but it doesn't matter. The point is, I get that you believe in this free will thing, and I get that you're saying that our sins are our own actions. What I'm saying is that you believe in this story, that God has this grand plan, and everything that's happening in the middle here is all just a part of that. And God, being omnipotent and all-powerful and all-knowing, could do it any other way, but he chose this, and he knows every bad thing that we are ever going to do, and he's like, yes, this is the way that it shall occur. They're free to, and then I will have this other thing. We'll have a big party.
Yeah, exactly.
It sounds like you're saying that all the sin and pain in the world is a regrettable part of God's plan, but a part of God's plan nonetheless.
And
is that fair to say?
Which makes it a good thing in that view.
That's exactly my point. Yes. Is that fair to say, Mike?
I see I agree with everything except for the plan part. It's not God's plan. He's like, set the table. We're running around like maniacs.
Does God know everything, past, present, and future? Yes or no?
Because
he does know everything. Yes.
Yes. So here's a question for you: if you watch a whole if you have like a football game and you TiVo it and you've got the whole thing and you know exactly what's going to happen, every single step that every single player is going to play, you know everything about the game. Would you say then at the end of it, okay, well, if this team loses, I'm going to punish them, even though you already know which team is going to lose? Would that not mean that all of that is part of the plan?
Okay, can I blow your mind here?
I would appreciate you answering the question instead.
Okay.
You can blow our minds by answering.
God can actually change his mind. He'll say, I'm going to take out this city unless they repent. And then like Nineveh.
Is it still is it still part of his plan?
Is it still part of his plan?
You can make these little like permutations,
no,
but
it's up. We're interacting with the plan, I guess.
Okay,
and it's not a plan. He's just watching us and hoping we'll make the right decision.
This only makes your God worse.
Honestly,
that's
what I was like. I was gonna say that. Then you're gonna say that all these terrible things are actually good because they're part of the plan. But you've actually made it weirder in the idea that now, no, this God actually is just fucking watching.
God will actually respond and listen to us, except for those fucking millions of times that people prayed for their children not to be slaughtered.
Exactly.
Except for all of those times where somebody wakes up only to find their beloved dead next to them.
Yeah.
God will totally change his plans, like if the whole city of Nineveh repents, but fuck all if some mother and father lose their kid and pray for it. God's too busy for that, apparently.
Right.
Your God is shittier in that version, man.
Yeah, you've made your God weaker than even I was trying to make him a monster. You've made him just fucking useless.
Well, let me try. Let me actually try something with Mike real quick, and we can end it here.
You guys are harsh.
Well,
your God's a dick.
Yeah, I think that assessment's a little strange after what we've heard. Let me try something with you. Do you agree, like, because this whole free will thing is like bullshit to me, right? Like this, and here's why. Not like free will in general. That's a whole separate conversation. Do you agree if I went to go rob a bank right now, right, that I could either successfully rob the bank or I could not successfully rob the bank? But I can still freely choose to rob the bank. Do we agree so far?
Sure.
Yeah. And if the cops stopped me, they didn't thwart my choice to rob the bank, right? I still chose to rob the bank. I just suck or they're really good, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So we don't want to make this mistake that pretty much every fucking Christian I've ever talked to makes, which is conflating the deliberation of a choice with the outcome of that choice. My deliberation to choose to rob a bank is compatible with me failing. It's compatible with me succeeding. And it's compatible with the failure of someone like stopping me. That doesn't thwart my free will. So if all you have is like this desiderata on what God is deciding upon what he wants, and it's just these kind of propositions, like God wants a free world, he wants agents to be able to make those like morally significant decisions, and you know that's pretty much it, and he doesn't want evil, right? If you have that thing in there, well, here's a problem. That world that God creates where, let's say I rob banks or Forrest rob banks, if he sends like a group of angels or the cops just stop me every fucking time, that is still me exercising libertarian free will to make an evil choice, but no evil is actualized in the world. So God gets exactly what he wants. He gets agents that can choose good, he gets agents that can choose evil, but there's no fucking evil, right? So if you have a view where God is like infallible, can't fail, doesn't want evil, wants agents to be able to choose, that's your option. Your only other option is to say, you know what, Mike, that world, like, it sounds nice, but it's missing this, like, one ingredient, the actual evil part, which takes us back to Forrest's point that it's part of the fucking plan, and therefore it's what's called a prototo good. Not to be confused with, like, being really into Africa, but sorry, I don't, probably making my producers freak out here. But anyway.
Rosanna is their best song.
It's in all things considered good. And just think about it in this way. I have a daughter. I don't have a daughter, but say I have a daughter, and I want to go give her a vaccine. I have to weigh out some pros and some cons, right? Potentially if I'm like, maybe I'm some weird anti-vaxxer or something, and I'm like, I'm skeptical. And I'm like, well, okay, on the pro side, it'll immunize them. They won't end up in like an iron lung. Con side, maybe they'll cry. Maybe it'll hurt them, discomfort, maybe very rare allergic reaction. I don't know, right? You add all that up and you go, well, all things considered, it's a better thing for me to give the vaccine to poke the child. Because all things considered, they're not going to end up in an iron lung. Even though we can point out these little cons, like them getting pricked or stabbed or crying, all things considered, it's good. And the problem is that is your view. Your view is that if you go that route, right, and the first one I went to, God is just a failure and God doesn't exist. And this one, you get to maintain potentially God's existence, but you end up not having a problem of evil because there's no fucking evil in your worldview. And then now we get weird statements like, all things considered, the Holocaust should have occurred. All things considered, that baby, even though it sucked for them, that should have occurred. For every single instance, all things considered, it was actually a good thing, right? And if that's the case, you got a major problem, because if sin is something that ought not be done, and it turns out now it's something that should have been done, and now original sin is not something that ought to have been done, but something that should have been done, then how can there be any meaningful notion of the atonement of Jesus if what it means to have some type of redemption arc from a fall is that there was something that shouldn't have occurred, and now you have something that should have occurred, all things considered? It makes the atonement of Jesus meaningless when now the story I've been told about sin being something that shouldn't occur is now something that should occur, and Jesus didn't have to die on a cross. He could have just came down and said, like, potato, and then, like, left. It would have made no difference. You know, this view just has so many problems. I don't know what you're thinking, but
no, I don't think we're gonna get much better than that on it, Mike. Yeah. Honestly, like I totally stand by the original statement that God made a lousy fucking world, and it's because honestly, the version of God that you've described is a lousy fucking God, man. Yeah. Good thing is, probably doesn't exist. So, anyway,
it was long-winded, Mike. But
can I do a final statement?
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just the final statement is, this isn't heaven. We're muddling through this mess, trying to make one decision only, not trying to make it a better world, but just trying to decide, do you want to run your life or do you want God to run your life? That's it.
Nonsensical, man.
That's
just nonsensical, and adding heaven into it makes it worse for you. Because then there is a place where people freely choose using libertarian free will. God perfectly created a world where everybody always chooses the good thing that God wants. And yet again, you've still got this aspect that Mike was talking about, that for some reason, it's just all of this fucking nonsense isn't good unless you can really feel what getting stabbed in the dick feels like, man. Like, gotta have that.
There's a lot. It's a lot about dicks. It's like he was joking, but honestly, there's a lot of stuff about the dicks that God's very concerned with. And like, how are you going to sit here and be like, yeah, but we need free will in the fallen world, and this isn't heaven? And also, listen, you got to get rid of that fucking foreskin, dude, and make sure you know where you're putting it, because I swear to God, if it's a butt, you're going to have a bad time.
And don't come on the ground, because that's a problem too, apparently.
Yes,
God doesn't like that.
There's so many things you have to account. Like, you're sitting here trying to have this serious philosophical argument, and we're all ignoring the fact that like 80% of the laws in the Bible are all about penises. Yeah. And I don't think that we're being serious.
And not one of them was wash it, by the way.
Not a single one.
That's nonsense, man. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Mike, you like? I mean, we're gonna wrap this up soon, but I want to know. Do you think that God only chooses good things?
What do you mean by choose?
Like, God's nature, presumably, in your view, is like he's good, and so like when coming between some like decision, what he does is always good. It's always what ought be done, right? Is that the view? Or can he do things that ought not be done? I'm just trying to, before I go on, make sure I don't straw man you.
All right, you're going to beat me up for this, but God has special privilege. What he does is good by definition.
That's fine. We can move on. We can move on with it. That's fine. So you have a being. So there's a point here. Yeah. You have a being that only can do good. He has libertarian free will, right?
Yes, I would.
Okay, great, awesome. So in your view, fundamentally, you already have established, sans creation, fundamentally, that there is a being that can only choose good, has libertarian free will, and so it just follows pretty clearly to me that God could create a world where agents just freely choose the good like he does. They come across some deliberation and they just always make the right. They always make the right decision, and I think we could get this pretty easily understood. Do you think God is a being that can do anything that's logically possible?
Yeah, I've heard you state this, but I like it. It's a very interesting argument.
I'm not worried about that. I'm just asking. I'm actually more interested if you answer. Believe it or not.
Oh, okay. My answer is, I think the only way to do free will is messy.
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't ask. I didn't ask that.
Yeah, I'm good to move on. Are you good to move on?
Yeah.
You want to keep going? You're welcome to keep going.
No,
it's
Mike v. Mike up in here.
Yeah, I know where you're trying to go.
No,
man.
it's getting mildly frustrating. Actually,
it's more than mild. Mike.
No, we've done it. We did the thing.
Yeah,
we can move on.
Yeah,
Mike can call us back.
Mike,
for the sake of the audience.
Yeah.
I was like,
It's been 25 minutes, Mike, and it has been pulling hen's teeth to get you to answer literally any
that's
question.
My problem. I'm afraid the next premise I ask is going to be something else.
It's going to be another 25
But I'll just state what it is, and just for brevity, if God is a being that can instantiate any logical, metaphysical possibility, a world where agents freely choose the good is a logical. I mean, if you don't think it is, you're going to have to provide a contradiction in that world. Mm-hmm. Then God can instantiate that particular world, right? And that is just going to follow from what you accept previously, and this is why problem of evil arguments, in my opinion, are very strong, because they take things that you accept, and even when you throw some things out in a way, it's so easy for me, Elliot, Forrest, or any other people to reconstruct arguments based on those propositions, because there's only so many ways you can go, and the consequences are pretty straightforward once you kind of write them all out, right? There's only very few worlds that you can have. Worlds where we just choose evil stuff, worlds where we just choose good stuff, that's all you can choose. A world where there's both of that, a world where the evil gets prevented, and then the world we're in now. And every time you run through all of those worlds, they always want the world with the evil actually in it. And that just means the world is the way it ought to be right now.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, like, you're talking about God could have created this world. God could have created a Bible that said, don't own slaves and wash your dick. And he did not.
Yeah.
Like that,
that's the real
sin that I think is the most grave.
First two commandments.
Could have been, don't own slaves, wash your dick. And that would have been it. But he didn't, and I think that sin is unforgivable, Mike. And with that, we're going to end the show.
We did it, guys.
We did it.
I don't know if you're like to be touched, so maybe
I'm okay with it.
Okay, cool.
I'm okay with it.
Can we...
Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, non-binary pals, everybody in the audience who came all this way to see us, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, look at them!
They just sat here for 3.5 hours.
Freaking champs.
Talked to all the mics. We talked to so many mics.
So many fucking mics.
There was a lot of mics.
Now you're sick of me.
You were the only mic I enjoyed.
Oh, thank you.
we've got an amazing show for you next week and next week and the next week and every week after that. Tune in every Sunday at 4:30 Central Standard Time, which is the best standard time, to watch more AXP. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for donating. Thank you so much for being a channel member and a Patreon member. I'm going to go eat all of the pizza in this building. Have an awesome rest of your day.
Yeah.
Stay skeptical and never stop learning. Bye-bye.
Now it's just time for drinks. That's
your mic's still on.
Oh, I know. I'm letting them know. Where are we going, y'all?
I already told Elliot, hey, after if you want to make one last night in Austin tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Let's go do it. Show up in Austin, Texas. Just fly on in right now and join us at the after party.
Well,
we don't know where we're going yet, but we'll find you.
Yes.
We love you, everybody.
We just lose fans.
No, it's great. No, everybody likes that. You don't have to.
Watch Talk Heathen live Sundays at 1 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTH and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callth.